Okay, we are live. I'll go ahead and tweet that. Guess I should do that on Instagram too. It's probably a good idea.
Hit all the social media platforms.
I know. All two of them that I have.
All do. They're the ones that matter. I mean, I don't know what else.
Yeah. Actually, I did the countdown on the Instagram one, so we might be okay.
LinkedIn, be like, hit every social media.
LinkedIn, MySpace.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Does it even exist?
I don't know. Like, I never even had one, so that wasn't one of the things that I had to age out of, like, because I just never did it. So
yeah, is MySpace like even still like? Could you still make a MySpace? Like, I never had one, but like, is it still like operational?
I don't know, but I'm gonna like Google it right now.
Okay,
let's find out.
Now we need to know. Maybe I should make a MySpace and like start a renaissance because I never had a MySpace.
That's right.
Whoa, there's still a MySpace, but it looks like it's kind of more focused on musicians.
Okay.
Like maybe a transition to that, like to be about music and bands.
Alrighty.
I mean, I guess maybe because couldn't you like do it so that when you went to somebody's MySpace, that like music would play automatically?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I did have a MySpace because I know I'm older than Kara. I don't know how old Huck is, but I was definitely old enough to have a MySpace, but it was only for a couple years before it became Facebook.
I might have been old enough to have one, but like I didn't on principle. I was like incredibly anti-social media. Like I don't have Facebook. The only social media I have is the social media that I created when I started this channel specifically, and it's only book stuff. I don't use it for other parts of my social life.
Yeah.
It's like it's only for this. So I was like very like adamantly anti-social media as a kid. So
because I've always been slow to do social media, so I was late to MySpace, so I think I only had like a year of it, and then I didn't get a Facebook for a long time, and like I just got Bookstagram or Instagram. I only use it. I don't even have a personal account. I just use it for books, and I only got that like 2 years ago. So I'm definitely.
I did mine a month ago, so
I'm all about the late entry into social media, and I don't plan on having TikTok. I think it's not my thing.
Short format does not work for me. We all know, like.
No, I would never be able to like, and it's too like snappy. You gotta like, you gotta have like your concise stuff. You gotta match it with music, and I'm like, no, it's just not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have considered maybe trying to do like reels or something, but TikTok specifically, I'm just like I think that I would be too easily sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, look, I already have a lot of things that I am unnecessarily obsessed with and things that I waste my time on. I don't need another thing that is like specifically engineered to waste your time. So like, I just am like, it's like self-preservation. I'm just not doing TikTok. But also same kind of like with the short format that I've thought about doing reels, but I'm like, what would I even do?
Mm-hmm.
I talk too much to make it like work for me.
Right. Then I'm like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with this if I can't like talk to you for 20 minutes. Like what?
Yeah.
Because I would always want to do more. Like if I was like 5 short book recommendations, I would want to talk about them, not just like say their names.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that doesn't work. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
The one thing I was considering doing is that like for some books, I have like a specific song that I associate with that book, because a lot of times, like sometimes I'll listen to a song on repeat while I'm reading, and you can't like use music on YouTube unless you have like the licensing for it. And I was like, wow, on Reels you can. So maybe I would do something where I'd just be like, here's the book, here's the song I associate with it. That's my one idea.
That would be a good thing to do, like content that is like specific to like it makes sense specifically. Another thing is like I just don't like the pressure because it's so short, it's like, it feels like more pressure to be like immediately interesting or funny or something. And it's like, I don't think I'm specifically uninteresting or unfunny, but I don't like having to be like immediately like that, you know, like having to, it's like, you better be like funny as soon as you start talking, or like interesting, or like attention grabbing, like as soon as you start. Like I don't like that. I need to work up to being interesting.
Yeah, I think I've always thought that I'm like, I feel like I'm the kind of personality that like grows on you over time. So I feel like you need more time for that.
You need prolonged exposure to me to like. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hello. Hi. Yes, say hi in the comments if you guys are here. This is obviously going to be very chill and relaxed. So if you show up and there's only 10 minutes left, that's fine too. We're going to be hanging out. Let's see. Okay, so we're like 7 minutes in. We'll maybe give it like another minute or two, and then we can start with introductions. The nice thing about having such a vague concept for a live show is it's like, we can wait however long we want to, because most of it is just going to be like this.
Yeah. It's not like once we start, it's like suddenly different content. You know?
Right. It's just basically going to be more official versions of what we're already doing.
Yeah.
And in the ongoing saga of trying to find my measuring tape, I cannot find my measuring tape. So thankfully, I'm on a step that I won't need to measure for a long time, but yeah. Will not be able to use that if I need it, so that's fun. Nothing like being prepared, right?
Well, my craft that I was last minute because my craft I was planning on doing did not arrive in the mail. I bought a kit and it did not arrive, and so now I'm like, well, I guess I'll grab out the cross stitch project that I started 2 years ago and haven't touched since, and we'll see if maybe like I could do that, or I could paint my nails. Like, yeah, I had a plan, and the plan did not go through.
Yeah, I know. This project is one that I like had been ignoring for probably at least a year, and then for the Gothtober kickoff sprints that were like just like very chill crafting stuff, I was like, I knit, so I should knit something, but what should I do? And so I just like picked this up. So shout out to Gothtober for making me actually work on a project again. Hopefully I can finish this in a time that I can actually wear it. That'd be nice. So speaking of introductions, let's go ahead and start everything. Yes. Go ahead and like get settled. Oh, also I should have mentioned take your time. That's okay. I should have mentioned too that like if you need a break to like count something where it's like, okay, I can't talk for like a minute, just like go ahead and say that. I did that frequently in our other sprints. So
I might have to do that this time because I am following a pattern.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't know, like that's what I'm like worried about with count and cross stitch. I'm like, can I count and talk at the same time?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. It should like if you need like a lot of like silent breaks to like count stuff, that's totally fine. The one that I was doing, I mean, it was the same project, and I thought I would be at a part where I wouldn't have to count stitches as much, and that was not the case. So that is okay. Hi, Nat. Says, I hope to work on a scarf for my daughter. Almost done, hopefully. Thank you for hosting this. You're so welcome. Yeah, we enjoyed it a lot, the first one we did, so we definitely wanted to do more of these. And it's nice having like a designated time to work on something like this, because otherwise I feel like I never prioritize it, you know, which is also fine if you like just fit it in whenever you can, but it's something I enjoy doing. So, you know, it's nice to actually make specific time for it instead of just whenever I have 5 minutes. Yeah. Kelly, if you're still getting settled, we can start with Huck introducing herself.
Okay.
Are we introducing projects too at this point?
Yeah. Do you want to do them both at once, or?
Sure.
Okay, so just go ahead and say a little bit about your channel, kind of content or books that you do, and tell us about what you're working on today.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Huck. My channel is Badger Reads. I talk about books. I mostly read fantasy, a little bit of historical fiction. I feel like historical fantasy is kind of my niche, I'm realizing. But yeah, and what I'm working on today, so I actually am making a hat. I'm making another one of these. I finished this literally like 10 or 20 minutes ago. And so I was like, I'm gonna wear it.
Yes.
So I have like recently discovered like Etsy crochet patterns that it's like $3 for a pattern, and I'm just like, this is incredible. So I have been making, this is the third one of this that I've made in the last like 3 days, 4 days or something. I've been like a little obsessed. They're so cute. Anyway, but so I'm making another one. I have this yarn, which is like, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's this really like, it's just very pretty. It's kind of like browns and pinks. That I feel like it's going to be a very pretty hat. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on. I don't know if I have the right crochet hook size for this, so I'm kind of trying to decide if I'm going to go like a little too big or a little too small for it.
Yeah.
But first, I actually have to wind this into a usable ball, so that's step one.
Yes. Actually, that's a good time to mention. In the first crafting sprints we did, I actually linked a like very short random like tutorial or like help video on winding into a skein. It like, not to be over dramatic, but it kind of changed my life because I'm not exaggerating when I said that the last time I was trying to wind yarn into a usable ball, I was like almost crying from frustration. Like it was so bad. It was so tangled. And I had to do like 12 skeins because it was a big project. So anyway, chair backs. That's the secret.
Yeah. But that works for the kind of skeins that are like the twisted ones, right? Where it's like one big loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly, would you like to introduce yourself and your project?
Yes. As I'm like scattered all over.
No, that's
I'm Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly. And my original plan fell through, so I decided to pull out a cross stitch, and I had started this 2 years ago. It's like a Christmassy scene.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Christmassy ice skating kind of scene. But then I realized I had it upside down. I'm like trying to figure out where I'm at, like, and everything. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I'm on this blue. And then I was looking it up and I'm like, oh, actually, that was supposed to be 2 colors combined. So when I was doing this 2 years ago, I did not do it correctly.
That is the worst.
I'm trying to decide, does that mean I should just tear all that part? It was just a little, like I only have a little bit. It's only this tiny little bit of blue right here. So I'm like, do I just tear that out?
Yeah.
Probably.
And like, that's one of the things that I do a lot too, especially if I realize I made a mistake and I'll have to rip something out. I like don't want to do it right away because it's so disheartening to like rip out something that you just did. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave this for a while. And then the problem is that I leave it for so long that I not like forget the pattern because I'm like working from a written pattern, but like I get out of like the groove of knowing what I'm doing. And so then by the time I come back to it, I like basically have to relearn everything again. And I hate it. I hate doing it. But do I like change what I do? No, I still put projects down and ignore them for years. Why am I like this?
Oh my God, Kara, the other day, when I was making the first one of these hats that I made, I actually did a gauge swatch.
You did?
I did. And it didn't work.
Oh, no.
It was still like I had to do extra rows because it was the wrong size. And I was like, I have to tell Kara about this. And I was like, I did a gauge swatch and it didn't even work.
This is just confirming my feeling that gauge swatches are a scam. Like, I hate them. Kelly, what had you said before?
Oh, sorry if I interrupted you.
I don't even
No,
know.
no. I think we just overlapped. It's always hard on like StreamYard or Zoom.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like, now I'm like, I'm the same. Okay, so I am a habitual starter of projects and like a never finisher of projects. And I'm also not even like one craft. I like to try all the crafts. And so and then, like you said, you have to relearn. Luckily, cross stitch is not something I have to relearn. It's just this like, now I gotta like cut this out. Now I'm losing momentum. Do I even want to do this? And now I'm gonna set it down for an entire year again, probably. Like I need to just like tell myself, yes, just tear that out and just you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that's why the kit I was having was a brand new craft I've never done. And I'm like, why not? Why not start a new craft?
I have a theory that the Venn diagram of people who read multiple books and people who start multiple projects is a circle. Like I feel like there's a correlation. Yeah.
I feel like momentum is like I think you said momentum, and like that's the key to me and why I like, if I'm going to do a craft, I have to do it as quickly as possible before I lose momentum on it. Otherwise, because if I don't, like, then I'm gonna just put it down and never finish it. So I'm always just like, do it as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah. Garamond says doesn't have a craft project, but hoping to read a little bit more of the book you're reading. Nice. What book is that? And this is also a good time to mention that, like, similarly to the other crafting sprints that we did last time, it's probably going to be a lot more like this than like reading sprints. So like a lot more chatty and casual, but we are going to try and do at least one, possibly two, like actual silent sprints so that if you're doing something that you need quiet for, then you can do that. But also just feel free to mute this if you're working on something, because I've done that before. If like I'm reading along with sprints and it's like, okay, the chatting section is going too long and I need to finish this book, then I'll just like mute and come back later. So feel free to do that. A primer on historical women pirates. Not mind-blowing, but a decent historical and a bit of literary overview. Okay, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds like an interesting topic.
Yeah. We're intrigued. And then I should show my craft real fast. So, hi everyone, I'm Kara. My channel is obviously Wild Book Garden. Thanks for being here for more crafting sprints. Very excited to be doing more of these. And Kelly and Huck are already linked in the description, so please follow them, check them out. I am working on the project I was doing last time because I didn't work on it at all in between because I had gotten to a point that I think would be good to do a sprint for because I actually don't have to count for a while. So it's still the like bow tie scarf that I'm making. And it is double knitting, which I was complaining about before. Because it looks really nice, but it's a pain because I have to keep stopping to like untangle the two yarn balls. But I'm hoping it's going to look really nice. So this is the ongoing project I'm doing. Nat says, still fairly new to knitting. All I've ever done was a scarf. This is my second one. What projects did you venture after getting comfortable with knitting? So scarves are obviously a good one. I did a lot of scarves. It's like, I'm just going to keep doing rectangles until I get bored. But then another really good one that I did was because I had like a particular kit that was really great because they had instructions for like projects that are specifically easy for beginners. And one of the ones that I did as well was a kind of like coin purse sort of thing. And that was nice because it was really small, but you did have to learn how to like decrease stitches and things like that. So it was like a good way to introduce yourself to that. And then there was also a hat pattern that it wasn't knit in the round because a lot of the ones that you'll find like nicer patterns for, it's like you use circular needles or you use like double pointed needles so that you don't have to seam it. But the beginner hats, you do seam it and it's not a big deal. Like you just like put that part on the back, which I never thought was like a problem or anything. So a hat is also a good kind of starter project, like specifically a really simple one. But yeah, like honestly, if you do just like a few scarves in a row, I think that's also a good way to start out. And I was saying before that one of the nice things I think about knitting, and probably other fiber crafts too, Huck will have to chime in if it's the same with crochet, but I feel like it's very easy to customize how hard you want it to be. Like if you start getting bored, you can like find a new stitch or like a new pattern or something. But if you're not bored yet, you can just keep making more of what you're doing. So I hope that was like a helpful answer. Basically, like small projects, scarves are obviously good. And I actually think that simple hat patterns would be a good one as well. Ones that you don't have to do all in one piece, because that is a little bit of a learning curve.
I would agree with that. I mean, like I crochet, not knitting, so it's like a little bit different. But the concept of like, as long as you're still entertained by what you're doing, just like keep doing it. Because when I first learned how to crochet, like I started out making hats because in like beanies, because in crochet it's very easy to just like you just keep going in circles.
Yeah.
And I just did that for a really long time. I made so many hats that it was a problem. At a certain point, I was like, what do I do with all of these? And so then I tried to like give them away to as many people as I could. And then I just had to like donate a whole bunch of them because I just was like, I have too many. But like it was still entertaining to me. And then once I got bored with that, I like started learning something else. And then also like even with something really simple like that, you can still like learn a new stitch or something. Because I started with just really simple single crochet hats, and then I would be like, oh, I'm gonna learn how to do like fancy stitches, and then just like kind of weave those into the hats that I was making and stuff. So just to like make it a little like level up a little bit without going too far outside my comfort zone.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that like I did like before I started doing like more complicated projects, it's like I did basically another basic scarf, but I added a different color. So I had to practice like adding a new piece of yarn and like weaving in like the new color and everything. Yeah, and I think another good thing, because Nat, I don't know if it sounds like you might be self-taught as well, which I am. I'm a self-taught knitter. And so another nice thing too is if you do find a good kind of beginner kit or a beginner like knitting book, a nice thing is that a lot of times they're set up to like tell you what a good like order of projects to do or a good order of skills to learn, because that can be really nice as well. Like the one that I used, I don't think it's in print anymore, which is a shame because it was really helpful, but it'll say like, this makes a really good first project because it's very small, or like this is a good first project because the fit isn't really important. So that can also be a good place to start. Garamond says, my grandmother was a prolific beanie maker with the crochet. It all makes sense now.
Beanies are a great crochet project.
That's her secret.
Yeah. And they're great to give to people, you know?
Yeah.
Like, keeps you warm, wear it in good health. Like,
yeah.
A very good, like, grandma gift.
So I figured out I was looking at the wrong thing, so I don't have to tear it out.
Good.
Yay.
That's good.
I'm like, there's so many. I should really have started with something smaller because I haven't cross stitched since like, I don't know, years and years and years. And then I decided to do this giant project. I'm like, this is, so there's so many symbols. I'm like,
yeah,
probably shouldn't have done that. The thing I wanted to start, because I thought it'd be a good one to do while doing something like this or audiobook, was I wanted to start learning how to needle felt. Like needle felt, like where you're poking the wool. And so I bought a kit because I've never done it before. So I was like, I'm gonna get a kit. It's gonna come with everything so I can like practice it before I try to design my own things. And so I was like, that would have been a nice like mindless type of task. And you get to poke things with a needle over and over again.
go?
Very cathartic craft.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I did a needle. I thought I had something that I had felted over here, and I don't know where it went. Oh well, I was gonna show you, but I did like needle felting. It's you can make some really cool stuff. I never got good at it, but like there's some really incredible stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, who knows if I'll be any good at it, but like, just figured why not? Why not try another craft?
Yeah.
It's a fun craft though, and like roving is so pretty. Like the felt that you like, the loose felt is so pretty that I always just want to buy it, and then I was like, well, what do I do with it? Needle felting is the answer.
Well, I have decided that I can't focus, so what I'm going to do is take this giant thing that I have obviously didn't do anything with, and I'm going to actually put the floss on the things, on the little whatever.
Sounds like a good idea.
It's mindless, and plus, obviously, I am twisting my yarn all over, or my floss everywhere, and this is not good because I have some in here that's not even labeled. I don't know. This is the problem. I feel like completely like do not know what I'm doing with myself. Does anyone else feel like this like the majority of the time?
Yeah. Yes. I just was lucky today because it happened that most of it wasn't on camera. I mean, I still haven't found my stupid, what do you call it, measuring tape. And I had to like stop and try to remember where I had even put this project, which is like ridiculous. And then I couldn't find the pattern book that I was using for it. And then I realized it was right next to me because I had left it there from last time so that I could find it. So I spent like minutes like trying to find, I was like, where would it be? This doesn't make sense. Yeah. So you're good, Kelly. You're good.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I still haven't found, like, since the last time we did this, I was looking for headphones to wear while we're doing this. Still have not found them, and I have looked. So it's been what, like 3 weeks, and still have not found my headphones. So, Kelly, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say that like I'm feeling really disorganized in my crafting because I did have a sewing room because I quilt. Though I haven't quilted in a little while, but I had a sewing room, but in our basement flooded.
Oh,
yeah.
And so I had to pull luckily all of my quilting stuff, I keep it in tubs, like plastic tubs.
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, did it damage anything?
No, like all my fabrics in tubs and stuff like that. And then like obviously my sewing machine was up on the table and stuff. So nothing got damaged of like my sewing stuff. But then I'm like, where do I put it? We don't have a lot of extra space. So like I just don't know where anything is now because I've got like only the immediate projects that I think I'm gonna do hiding under my bed, and like my sewing machine in a closet, and my ironing board under this bed. Like there it's like it's all over. So I don't know where anything is.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere. All right. I do need to go get a pen though, because if I'm going to do this, I need to write down the numbers. So I'll be back.
Go for it.
As I'm winding this, it's interesting seeing like sections because it changes colors, and there are sections where I'm like, this is an ugly color. Like this section, I don't know how well you can see this color, but that is not an attractive brown. But it's like, but like when you put all the colors together, I think it's pretty. So hopefully it looks nice as a hat. I'm not sure how it's gonna go, but it's been interesting that I'm a little concerned because altogether it looked nice, but now as I look at the individual colors, some of them are ugly.
It's like like from a distance, you're like, oh, I like this, and then up close, you're like, do I like this?
If you look at them together, like here, like that's the same brown, but when you put it with like the little bit of green and the pink, like I think it looks nice together. But just the brown is not great.
Yeah.
When I was buying this yarn the other day, I was like standing in line at Michael's, and there was this girl who was in line in front of me, and she like started talking to me about that she apparently had like just learned how to crochet and saw that I was like buying crochet stuff, and she was like very excited to talk to somebody about it. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. So apparently she had like made a scarf, was about to start a blanket, so was very excited about it. But that was very fun. I was like, oh, you know, that's a scenario where like random people talking to me in public, I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's less fun, especially when they ask me for directions and I'm like, I don't know where I am. I can't help you.
Yeah. Hi, Krista. Says not crafting now because she has a Zoom in a few minutes, but if we're on for a while, she might grab some yarn and start a project. Yes, we are planning to be on here for a couple more hours, so depending on how long your Zoom goes, yes, come back and join us.
I feel like her Zoom was one that I was going to be on, but then I'm like, I can't be on two at once.
Have like simultaneous conversations, be like, okay, you guys have to coordinate conversations so that I can be in both.
Like just you have like two monitors and you're like switching back and forth. Like,
but like you have to coordinate the conversation so that Kelly could like make one comment that applied to both conversations.
Oh yeah. That would be impressive.
I make it sound like I'm really popular. Really, like I think the only people's channels I've been on are yours and Krista's. So this isn't like I am like super popular. Like this is it.
Look, this is the only live stream like that I've done really. So I feel like the same. I was like, wait, how am I ending this sentence?
we can advertise this as like exclusive, like yes. The only times you'll see Kelly and Huck on live streams.
Okay, this just got tangled. Oh no. Before this, I've been rewatching Bridgerton. Not because I like it, like it's not bad, but I'm like, it's a show that I've watched before and you don't really have to pay attention to know what's going on. So it's a good one for when I'm like crocheting and so I'm like looking at something else and I'm counting and I'm like half listening.
Yeah.
But every time I watch this show, I'm just like, man, I feel like I would have done really well. I would have been like a very accomplished lady in this time period because like they're doing, you know, one of the characters, he's like going around asking all these ladies about like their accomplishments to decide if he wants to marry them. And he's like, do you like to read? Do you play an instrument? Like all of these things.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I read lots of books. I do play an instrument. I can do crafts. I have technically learned both Latin and Greek. I don't remember it, but that's not
wow. You would be a Regency catch. Like,
oh, yeah. Wow. And I love fancy dresses. So it would be great.
You should do the Accomplished Woman book tag. It's not mine. I just did it, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it is. It's like based on that like specific conversation in Pride and Prejudice where like Caroline and Darcy are like talking about what makes an accomplished lady and they like go through all these things and like it's really fun. So like there's the section that's like you have to pick a book for each part of it. So like modern languages, you have to pick like a translated book and all of that. And then the last question is like, would you be considered an accomplished lady? I think where I ended up, I'd be like the middle tier. Like I wouldn't be like a catch, but I'd be like, if you're in like this tiny English village, I'm one of your better prospects. Thank you very much. Like
oh gosh.
Random.
Oh my goodness. There was something else I was going to say to that, and I completely forgot.
It really is a
think
fun
that my like
tag.
real failing would be though, like making conversation at parties.
Yeah,
Not
there's a lot of that.
Yeah, not a strength for me. So
I'll actually drop the link to the original tag. Let me.
Okay, cool.
I'll do that. Yeah, it was really fun. I did it as part of my like booktube birthday week. I did that and another Jane Austen themed tag, and it was super fun.
Oh yeah, I still need to watch this. I got so far behind when we got sick, and I'm like, I have like a list of videos I want to watch, and I have all yours on there, but I'm like, I just haven't had time.
It's totally fine. I know it's a lot
catch up
at
on
once.
A few of those too. Okay, yarn is now in a ball.
Good. All right, so here's the link to the Accomplished Woman book tag. Yeah, it's a really fun one. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I think I would be like a medium accomplished woman. Like I do like things like embroidery, and though I don't like currently play a musical instrument, I liked playing an instrument when I was in high school and would probably learn one if I had a whole lot of free time sitting around at a house. I think my problem would be that and obviously if you were in that time period, it would be different because you wouldn't be exactly the same. But like for me, I am like such a comfort person. I don't think I could handle, like I would much rather wear like servant's clothes than the fancy lady dresses.
Yeah.
The thing that I've been thinking about this, that I was like, this would not work for me, is the fact that people just show up at people's houses and are like, okay, you have to entertain me and give me tea now. And I would be like, no. You have to go away.
But the great thing about that, though, is that they had to like ask if you were at home. So like at home to visitors. So like if the butler like brings in the card or whatever and you're like, I don't want to hang out with this person, just be like, we're not in. And then they would go out and tell them they're not in, and then they have to leave even if they know you're home.
All right. The thing is, I feel like people would catch on eventually that I'd just be like, I'm never home.
No, but like the thing is though, there's nothing they could do about it. Like this was just like the rules of society. Like you couldn't really, like it was very unusual for somebody to be like pushy about that because it just wasn't done. I feel like you could get away with it for like a good like year at least.
This is also the thing, is that I'm like, when I'm at home, I am always like in pajamas. Like I'm like Mr. Rogers, that I like get home and completely change clothes. So I'm like, how are they prepared to receive visitors at any time? I would not be just chilling like in a corset or stays or whatever it is they wore in that time period.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think that those ladies had to like get dressed every morning because they would even dress for like dinner and stuff. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Wait, what did I just do? 3.
I think my character flaw that would be it would keep me from marrying as well as I could probably is I guess just like in general being an introvert, because like you were saying, Huck, it's like having to just make small talk like and be charming but not too charming and blah blah blah. I would not be good at that. But honestly, I think the bigger problem would be that pretty much anything I would rather just like stay home and read a book. And it's like you're supposed to read a little bit, but not too much. And I'd be like, I don't want to go to this ball. I am just going to like stay here and ignore the world. I mean, it would be nice, like the nice thing about having all those like balls and get-togethers is that there were very specific things that you knew you were supposed to do, because that would be nice for social situations. But in terms of like, would I rather have to talk to a bunch of strangers for 6 hours or stay home? Like I'm always going to want to stay home. Which is not how you catch your Regency man.
Exactly. Like, what are you doing?
But
I
isn't
do feel
that
like
like
I would
why?
probably. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, isn't that why there was a season? So it's not like all year round, right? Falls
Right,
around.
right.
That's
Well,
true.
I think it depends if you're like in the city or the country. I was definitely thinking more of like the country where like Jane Austen's books take place. I would not do well in the city as like,
Mhm.
I mean, I would not do well in like big cities in general, but especially in that time period.
I feel like as much as I would not be great at like making conversation at parties, I probably would go to some balls just because it would be fun to dance. When I was
Yes.
when I was in college, I took ballroom dancing and it was very fun.
Yeah, I did like one or two lessons and I loved it. So that's something I would actually enjoy as well.
Yeah. And actually I think like waltz and well they may not have waltz and foxtrot were my favorite dances that we did. Although those are probably, I don't know if those are ones that they had at that time period.
The waltz was like really scandalous at that
Right,
time
like because you're
because
like
you
so
were so close to each other.
yeah.
They didn't do ones where they held each other close. They would have done more like reels, right?
Yeah, or like jigs for some of the country dances, or like
Yeah.
what I don't know what like the more formal ones were called, if they were like promenades or something. Um, Jane said same, except for book events. She will go out for those. Yeah.
I think my hardest time too would be like, I don't know how much you're allowed to say no. I
Yeah.
I like one of those people that were like, when I was dating or whatever, if I didn't like a guy, I'm like, I'm not gonna be polite and just like go on a second date. I'm gonna be like, no, we're done. And I think
Yeah.
they had to kind of like say yes to certain people. I'm gonna be like, no, no, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be hard. Like on the one hand, my fear and hatred of conflict would make me like, you know, prime pickings for for Regency England, but on the other it's like I think I would be upset about that all the time. Like I would, even though like the societal rules would match up with what I'm like comfortable doing, it wouldn't like make me happy, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I would probably fall more into that. Like my problem would be
You're too opinionated.
I would probably be too rude
Yeah.
if I didn't like somebody.
Yeah,
And
no,
just
I'm
be
not
like,
gonna
hey, stop talking to me. I am done with this conversation. Walk away.
Yeah.
my dance card is full. No.
Be like, look at this empty dance card. It's full of names
Yeah,
that are not yours.
it's like the equivalent of the like texting meme where it's like, do you have a phone? No. And it's like you're texting. It's like, do you have a spot on your dance card? It's like you hold up your blank piece of paper. I'm sorry, I'm full.
Right.
Like,
So we start like writing in random names, like, look.
yeah.
They're in one of the episodes, one of the characters writes in like a bunch of, you know, like famous authors' names or something like that.
Yeah. And also like just like little things, like the fact that whoever you dance with at the last dance before you go into dinner, like you have to sit by them the whole time. Like
oh my god, really?
that would be so stressful.
Make a good choice.
Yeah.
I would probably just be like, okay, if it's getting towards the end, I'm gonna just hide so that I don't have to like be linked to a specific person and then just show up and be like, hey, I'm at dinner now.
Yeah.
Which is why I would not fit in very well because I would do weird stuff like that. All right, let's count stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did something wrong.
No.
No.
Do we want to do like a short silent sprint while you figure that out?
Sure.
Let's just do like a real quick, like 15-minute one. So we'll just go to like the top of the hour. So if anybody wants to like get a snack or I don't know, grab some other project. Obviously, you guys can do what you want on this break. I don't know why I'm giving you options.
This is your multiple choice. These are the
yeah. These are the activities that are approved. I'll be right back.
Okay. Let me mute myself then.
Okay, everyone. So that was our little mini sprint. How'd everybody do? Any updates? Huck, did you figure out what had happened?
Yes, and I realized that it happens to me every single time at the same point in this pattern. Because what happens is that you have to you do like your initial like ring of stitches, and then you have to increase in each stitch. But the way that it's written in the pattern, they are explaining to you what an increase is. So they're saying an increase is 2 single crochets in one loop, and then in parentheses it says increase. And every single time I read it as single crochet 2, then increase 1, and then that would be like you repeat that. I misread it every single time.
Yeah. I just had something kind of similar happen with a different pattern I've been working on, where they were given, like, a lot of times, I don't know if crochet is like this too, it sounds like, but like there's the section before you actually get to like the regular pattern instructions that like defines any like new terms or stitches, and it like describes how to do them. And I had like the same thing happen where I could not figure out why it was giving me a pattern, like it was like a lace pattern, and I'm like, why are you giving this to me twice? Because it was here at the beginning, and then in the instructions they did it again, but it was different. And the way it was written made it sound like this was the start of the pattern. And it took me so long to figure out that they were just giving you a generic version of the lace pattern. So like you could use this pattern for like other things you were working on, and you would just plug in like a multiple of 7 or whatever and it would work. But like they didn't say that. They didn't say like here's how you would do this stitch. It was the way they wrote it was like it was the beginning of the pattern, like you cast on and you start doing this. And I'm like, it confused me for a very long time. So I sympathize.
What did I just do? I'm already messing up my counting, and I only have to count to 5.
This is why I decided not to do with counting, because I'm like, I can't.
The last one we did of these, there were so many times that all of a sudden I'd be like, wait. Then I'd have to like count again, and like undoing double knit stitches is not fun. Like, or I'm just bad at it. I don't know. Cameron said read a bunch more.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say read a bunch more in their pirate book. Very pleased. Cool. Yeah. Anyone else following along? Let us know how you're doing on your project or whatever you're working on. What were you saying, Huck?
I may have lost what I was going to say, but that's okay.
Sorry. We were talking about losing count.
Yeah, I lose count. I lose thoughts. Like, it's fine. I just accept it.
I decided to read because I didn't realize, I forgot that I was supposed to be in a buddy read.
Oh no.
And the live show, or not live show, the Zoom or whatever we're doing is on Sunday. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start the book. Probably will not be able to do that. I mean, like, it's 400 pages. Like,
oh no.
Oh, I don't know.
What book is it? Is it one that might read fast?
It's the 13th Tale. It's Gothic. I don't know if it's a
Oh, I read that.
Is it a 2-day book, or am I failing?
It's not like fast paced or anything, you know. It's like Gothic kind of historical fiction, I guess, with like family secrets and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to be at that Zoom.
Oh.
Or maybe I can read enough to be there at the beginning before they talk spoilery.
Right.
But
right.
The thing is so sad is that we've had this on the like calendar for 2 months. It's like completely my fault. Like, I should just have read the book ahead of time. I just forgot.
Yeah.
It happens.
It does. I've been doing the Fablin TBR game that Margaret from the Word Nerd does. And this has happened at least once or twice now where I get the prompt because like I'm doing the version where I don't have to commit myself to specific books because I could not do that. I'm not, I don't know. I'm having a little bit of a crisis on if I'm a mood reader or not. But anyway, like
Identity crisis.
Yeah, I know that like if it was for a challenge, I cannot do something usually where I have to read these specific books because immediately I'm like, I want to read anything in the world except these books, even though I'm the one who picked them.
I'm like
But yeah, but there is this like one prompt that is like maybe there's like two that are kind of like this where it's like somebody picks like a book or like you do a poll or whatever and like those are the ones that like you have to read that book. And this has happened to be like probably 2 or 3 times now. And every time I forget that I need to, like, if it's a book that I need to read for this, I need to do it in the beginning part of the month. Because by the time I get to the end of the month, I'm like, I just want to read what I want to read. And it's like, okay, but you also have to read this book that you really need to read. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to read other things. So, and it wouldn't be such a big deal, except that the way the game is set up, which like nobody's policing it, but the way the game is set up is like you actually get like punished if you don't complete the challenges. And it's like, I don't want to take a punishment. So, I guess my point to that story is like, I don't like being bossed around about books, even when I'm the one bossing.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm the same way though. Like I set my own TBRs and I'm still like, why should I read that book? That's not the book I want to read right now.
Who picked this book? Like,
who's telling me to read this?
Yeah.
Like me.
I had this like whole elaborate October TBR and it got to, cause like, this is what happens is when YouTube's auto caption features like just bite the dust, it throws off everything because I kept having to wait to do more like time sensitive videos. And so anyway, there's just like a bunch of things that happened that meant that I wasn't going to be able to get my TBR up until like at least halfway through the month. And I'm like, there's kind of no, like I've done that before, but like I still had to caption the whole thing. And I was like, I am kind of sick of this video, even though no one has seen it. So I just like never posted it. And I think it's interesting that I am on track to complete every single prompt for like the ridiculous number of readathons I was doing. Wow. And I think it's because I was doing it in secret. Like,
nobody knew you were doing it.
Nobody knew. And apparently that's how I thrive when I'm like trying to do way too much at once. So I don't know what the lesson from that is, but
I was actually just thinking of like doing a November TBR and like I never do TBRs for this exact reason.
Yeah.
And yet I was like, maybe this month I will. And now I'm like, oh, maybe that's a bad choice.
Yeah. I actually, one of the things I filmed today is like, I don't even know if I could like legitimately call it a TBR game because it is so basic, but I had a great time. And I think it's going to be a good way that I can talk about all of the readathons I'm participating in without feeling like I should mention like every book that I'm trying to, like, basically I'm the one who puts this pressure on myself. So if I give myself my own assigned prompts, then I will give myself permission to like not worry about the other stuff. I don't know. My brain works in weird ways, but we'll see how it goes, how the experiment turns out. But I'm excited.
This yarn is like different, completely different sizes at different parts of the yarn, and it's driving me crazy.
That seems like a design flaw.
I don't know. And I'm like, guys, this is what, I feel like it should be more consistent than this. I also think I remembered one of the things I was going to say when we were talking about pulling out stitches. It's not that this was like the most fascinating comment, but because this is the kind of yarn that's like kind of it's not like really tightly wound together and has like a little bit of fuzziness to it. It is
Yeah.
the worst to try and unstitch it because it all like binds together, and it's horrible to try and like pull out stitches.
Yeah. I swear there are some yarn or like, I don't know, like material designs where it's like, did the person who came up with this ever do a craft in their life? I feel like no. I feel like no, because this is the absolute worst to work with. It makes me hate everything.
I do like the slightly fuzzy look though.
I know. It looks nice. Like actually one of the ones that I'm knitting with, it has a little bit of like fuzziness and a little bit of like shiny bits, and it looks really pretty, but it can be not as fun to do stuff with. Garamond says, I do appreciate challenges or buddy reads or clubs because though it can feel like a slog, I do end up reading things I never would have on my own. Yeah, that's a good point. Also their book is a book club book also, so I am on deadline as well. Trying to finish this and read some more for Victober. Good luck. I hope that you're able to get through everything.
Yeah, I had like Victober plans and I completely lost that one. But
yeah.
Oh well. You can't do all of the readathons because I was doing other stuff and then I forgot until like just recently. I'm like, oh, I was gonna read like Jane Eyre and some Oscar Wilde. That didn't happen.
And especially it's like with Victorian classics, you can't just like pick one up and race through it, you know? Like these are like books that take planning.
And I did read some classics. They just weren't Victorian because I read Jane Austen.
Right.
But that's Regency, right? And
yeah.
I think there was another. Maybe that was the only classic that I read. Oh, and then I'm reading Les Mis, but that's not that either. So. And Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know when that is.
Yeah, he might be. I mean, he was one of the Romantic era, I think. Google that. Maybe you're doing Victober after all.
Maybe. Or at least a couple short stories.
Yeah. Let's see. What does Google say? I always forget that Edgar Allan Poe was American. I don't know why.
Yeah. I always wonder that too. And then like I look it up. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like from New England or something, right? Or was?
Yeah. Okay, so he was a Victorian era poet. Although I guess it's funny because he wasn't. It's like, I guess you're still a Victorian era poet if you're not like in a country where Victoria was queen, but
yeah. I don't know if I can fully count that though.
I say it counts. I have nothing to do with Victober, but I decree that it counts.
All right, so there you go. I have participated.
Yeah. They'll be like, you can't count that. And you're like, this random person you've never met says I can. So
I have like said I was gonna. Do you know how many times I put Jane Eyre on my TBR and I have not read it? Like, I think I'm cursed. Like, I seriously will just like never read that book because I just continuously say, "Oh, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it," and then I remember how much you loathe it, Kara, and then I'm like,
I know. I'm probably not a great test subject though, because like a lot of people love it. Even people who don't like classics love it. So I'm probably the cranky weird one. My sister loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I will be very curious if you do ever like pick it up and decide to read it. I will be very curious what you think.
It's gonna happen when I just need to not put it on a TBR. I just need to like randomly just pick it up one day and not tell anybody about it.
Well, if we learned something from my October TBR, read something in secret. Then it goes great.
Except for I'm also bad at like I create like secret TBRs or whatever. So I did that one that I complained to you a lot about, you know, the like ranking new releases astrology books. I think there was at least 3 of those books that I was telling you my complaints about like constantly. And it took me like 2.5 months to read those 7 books because I was just like, I have to read these, but I don't want to read these. I'm going to read something else. And this was like, I hadn't told anybody. This is completely a secret TBR. and I'm like, this project's gonna take me forever to finish.
Yeah. I
And they were only
actually
3 books, and they were due.
and they were oh no. Yeah, I like got out of the habit um of like paying attention to like my library holds because I just wasn't getting that many, and I still don't get that many, but now it seems like anytime I get one I get like four at once.
Yeah.
And then I like don't want to read them because I have to, and it's like, you are the one who picked these, stupid. Like why am I like so resistant to doing what I already wanted to do? It just like
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. I actually just did I'm copying your 5-star TBR idea where it's like you don't post it until you're like basically done, because I when was the last 5-star predictions I did? I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago and I never finished them.
Yeah.
And I just like I gave up. And so I'm like, okay, I want to start fresh, and I think this is a good way to do it for me too, because I will like, well, just like what we were talking about is like, because I don't tell anyone, it's not like any pressure I'm putting on myself. But like, even with this, I've read one of them and I'm currently reading another. And it's like, why is it taking me so long to read these? Like, the whole point is that I picked books I'm really excited about and that I think I'm going to love. Like, why why am I like this?
I'm the same way though. That's 5-star. You would think that like, oh, I should be excited about reading all these 5-star predictions, but then I'm like,
Yeah.
but I have to read them, even if it's like, me, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna go read something I think I'm gonna hate.
Just to spite myself. Like,
yeah, it's so ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm like, I mean, it's probably the same reason why we like put off like doing a craft that we think we want to do, and like,
yeah.
it's the same character trait.
Yes, I think also with 5-star predictions, there's like that extra anxiety almost, because it's like, I want to put off reading them because what if they're not 5 stars? Like, I think I'm gonna love them, but I'm scared in case I don't. So I feel like there's multiple issues going on there.
Honestly, I feel like that's the biggest reason for me to like not read something I think I'm gonna love.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like you can, I think I remember Huck, you said in a video one time, you're like, because I can enjoy knowing that I'm gonna love it, and then if I read it I might not love it. I'm like, that's exactly it. Like,
yeah.
Caravan said, this is why I feel at home on BookTube, just as a viewer, because I also have these ridiculous TBR negotiations with myself. No one else is involved. I don't even have a channel, LOL. Yeah, like, you're in good company. Obviously, we all do this.
Those, I'm just like so impressed with those booktubers. I'm sure I would like to see what the like personality types, like if you were look at the like Myers-Briggs or the whatever the other one with the numbers or whatever, like
Enneagram.
The people, the Enneagram, like if the people that like are like us have the same kind of personality, and like if the people that are like, this is my TBR, and they actually do it in the order that they say they're gonna do it, and they like finish their TBR, or mostly like they really just like plan and they do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, Kara, you're a J in MBTI, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm an INFJ.
You would think that a J would like be like, do the plan, execute the plan kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm a P, or perceiving type in MBTI, which makes more sense as to why I don't finish things.
Yeah, I'm a P as well.
Yeah.
So you said you're an INFJ?
Yeah.
What did I just do? Okay.
It's funny because I used to be a lot better about sticking to TBRs. Like, there were months when most of the time I would read most of the books on my TBRs, but like I think also I didn't used to do such ambitious TBRs. But also like the last couple of years I've been trying to, this is going to sound so ridiculous, I've been trying to read books that I'm excited about. Like, obviously, but like I think it's kind of the same thing we've been talking about, where I get like so wrapped up in like the challenges or things that I like assign myself that like I don't always like. Basically, I wanted to get more into mood reading because I do like doing that. I just always forget that I like doing that. And somehow that also led me to not read from TBRs anymore, which I guess makes sense because if my mood doesn't fit the TBR, then the TBR is not getting read, I guess. Apart from like a few books on it.
Yeah. And I like the challenges and all that stuff, but I do like think I need to maybe do like an every other month. Like have a month where I'm doing the challenges so that I pick up the things that I might not think to pick up. But then I should have some months where I'm like, I should just read this thing that I've been really wanting to read, but it doesn't fit any challenges. But this is the time to just read it because I want to.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing like sort of a TBR game, is because like I would say probably 90% of the prompts I came up with are like good things. They're things that I like really want to read, like an anticipated release or a book by a favorite author. Like they're not things where it's like I need to push myself to read them because I think I'm the type of person where I don't always give myself permission to do things unless it's like for a challenge. So if I give myself my own challenge, then I will read things I already want to read. It's like I have to like manipulate my own brain to do what I want to do anyway.
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I think you said earlier, like, as silly as it may sound, just being like, read things that you're actually excited about, you know, which like I'm doing the same thing because this year I'm trying to like be like, just read things that you're excited about. I don't even do challenges that much. It's just for some reason I get it in my head of like I have to read this book at this time, or I get very into like, well, I should just read books that I think I might not like as much so I just know and then I can get them off my shelf faster. And this year I'm trying to be like, no, just read things that you really think you'll like. And I've been reading a lot less, but it's been going pretty well. My average star rating is definitely higher than it has been maybe ever before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah, like I think this last month I was like looking at the books I've read so far in October, and I'm like, oh, that's like an unusual number of like 3 stars as opposed to like 4 or 5 stars. And it wasn't that many. It was like only maybe 3 out of like the books that I've read this month, which I don't know how many. I've read quite a few because I read a lot of short things too. But it's like I remember a time when I would probably have at least 5 or 6 that were in the 3 star range, which are not like bad books, you know, but it's like you're kind of shooting for like 4 or 5 stars. And so like the fact that I've gotten to a point where I'm like, oh, 3 stars, what's going on? It's like, that's good. That means that I'm like actually reading stuff that I think I'll enjoy. And I am correct. What a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did an organization of my bookshelves and I got rid of like a bunch of books or put them in the unhaul pile because I'm like the same thing. Like Huck, I think I'm like, oh, I should read these because I'm losing interest and I should see if I want to keep them. And instead, anytime I saw one of those on there, I was like, I'm just getting rid of it. Like I'm not gonna do it to myself anymore. And like the good thing is a lot of these were like older books, like because I used to do a lot more like little free library and buying from the library sale and like thrift books and stuff like that. And I'm like, is it worth my time to read something I've lost interest in that I only spent like $4 on or $3 on? Just get rid of it and read the books that I actually bought full price that I really want to read.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got rid of a bunch and I was like, I'm just, and I think my challenge will be for 2023 to just DNF things that I'm pushing myself to read and not like push myself to read things.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that the last couple of years. Is just like full permission to DNF. Like it doesn't have to even be terrible. It just has to be like, is this really how I want to spend my time? Not particularly.
Yeah.
I don't mind that I DNF rarely, but I do want to be better about unhauling TBR books because I am like pretty ruthless about unhauling books I've read. Like even if I gave it 4 or 5 stars, if it's one that I can't picture wanting to reread at any time soon, I'll get rid of it. But I have a really hard time getting rid of books I haven't read because I'm always like, what if it's like a new favorite? Because there have been times, this is what gets me. There have been a few times where I have like almost unhauled the book and then for whatever reason I decide not to and I read it and I love it. So I'm like, what if that happens again?
Yeah.
Which makes it hard. But
I keep telling myself that if I really just like want to read that, I can get it from the library.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
That's something that like helps me too is like especially if it's a book that like not even I'm on the fence about, but it's like you were saying, Kelly, it's like I look at it and I'm like, oh, I have to read that so I know. And I'm like, if I'm already not excited just thinking about it, I should just get rid of it. And it's like if I look in my library has it, even if it's like on ebook, which I don't like reading ebooks. And I know that I don't like reading ebooks, but I'm like, theoretically, I could read this if I wanted to. And that helps me realize that I don't actually want to.
yeah.
It's a great system.
Yeah, and I think I've just realized I need to like not. I mean, I think it's like it's fun to go to a library sale, but I hardly ever buy anything at the library sale that is like something I'm like super excited about. It's like I'm buying things that I like recognize. I'm like I'm somewhat interested in that, and so I pick it up, and I'm like, why? Why am I? Yes, it's 20 cents, but why?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm getting a lot better about not getting so many like, yeah, I'll give it a chance books because like I do think it's important to try things that you're not as familiar with. Um and I do read very widely, so it's not like I don't want to ever take a chance on a book again. But I think like the number of times that like you were saying, it's like, well, it's really cheap. I might like it. And it's like, okay, but are there specific things about it that make you think you're going to like it? Or are you just like, wouldn't it be cool if this book was good? Like,
Yeah, it'd be great if this just turns out to be my new favorite book.
it's like, yeah, it would be. But do you think that's going to happen? Like, yeah. Hi, Mel. Yes, you are welcome to read as we craft. And I mentioned this earlier, but these are going to probably be chattier sprints. Like we did do a little bit of a short silent sprint. So if you need to mute us as you read, go ahead and do that. Garwan said, good idea for unhauling. I do have a really good library system where I am, so it's usually a viable option. Yeah, like that's one of the things that has really helped me. Or another thing I'll do is if I have some books that I really am on the fence about, where it's like I just can't commit to keeping them or getting rid of them, I will just like put them in a box and just like leave them somewhere. And after about a month, if I like can't even remember what's in the box, or if like I open it and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about these books or I didn't miss them, that usually means that I'm okay getting rid of them. You know, it's kind of like it's like a soft unhaul. It's like I sort of got rid of them, but not really. And then usually there will be 1 or 2 books where it's like, oh no, I did think about wanting to read this one. So it's nice. It can be like I don't know, like a test run, I guess. So I've also found that that has been really good. For me, at least.
I think it's been helping me lately to think about unhauling because I started a little free library at my church.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm like, oh, this is going to a good cause. Like it's going to the little free library. Somebody else will pick it up and it'll be to the right person that actually wants to read this book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Schrodinger's books. Are they even in there? Yeah. It's like, who knows what's in the box? If I don't know, then I can probably get rid of them. Yeah, I hope that's great that you're enjoying your book so much, Mel.
So would you guys say that your collection is more TBR books or more books you've actually read?
Mine is definitely more books I've actually read. I have probably around 70 unread books. And I have some like instinct in the back of my mind whenever I reach like 70 books, because that is the point. Every time that I start to go like, this is getting overwhelming, I have too many unread books, and then I count them and I'm like, yeah, it's like 68 books. It's like there's something about like around 70 where I start to get overwhelmed. So I don't know, slow down my buying, or I unhaul things or something. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the point is, I don't know exactly how many read books I have, but I definitely have more read books than unread.
Yeah.
I like never count my books, partly for this reason. Fun. I don't want to know. But I don't, maybe it's close to even. Because the thing is, a lot of the books that I have like stacked behind are ones that I've read. Yeah, I do have a lot of unread books though. So I don't know.
I love counting my books. It's so much fun. I feel like, I don't know, like either Scrooge McDuck or like some or like some weird, like I don't know, like a dragon or something, we were just
a book dragon, yeah.
Things, it's so fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Although then I always run into like, do certain books like, do I count these? Because I also have a bunch of like picture books from when I was little that I still like have, and I'm like, I don't know if I should count these as part of my book collection, because like they're technically books, but
yeah.
Well, yeah, I have so many children's books since I have 2 children, and most of them aren't even what books they've read. They're like just my books, but I'm like, they're for my children.
Yeah.
Because they're like, a lot of them are ones that are too old for them, like middle grade, but I still count them as their books and not mine. So it's like, well, I can have all the middle grade books because I have children that will be of this age soon.
It's eventually for the children. Yeah. Yeah.
I am definitely I think I am on the end of owning more TBR books, because I also get rid of anything that's not like a 4 or 5 star. I get rid of it.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't thinking about that, about like, so I probably have more TBR then as well, because I also unhaul read books a lot.
Because I'm like constantly unhauling, and then, but it's hard to tell because of like the children's books. But if I'm not counting picture books, like if I'm just counting adult books, I definitely have more TBR, because I only have like half of a bookshelf of read books that are adult books, and then I have like a whole, like the other half of that bookshelf, and then a whole bookshelf in my closet that are unread.
Yeah.
And then I can't really stay with the kids' books, because like, some I've read a million times and some I haven't, but I will be reading them to the kids soon or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Again, it's for the children.
It's for the children.
Mel said it was people saying, I won't read it again. It should go to someone that will appreciate it and not just sit here gathering dust, or something similar, that made me say, oh, that's such a good point. I should do that too. Yeah. It's like, I sometimes think too about like, yeah, I really enjoyed this, but I can still like talk about the book. And in the meantime, somebody else could read this, like, I sometimes feel like if it's a book that I really enjoyed, then I need to keep it. And it's like, not necessarily. Nat has done a couple of inches on her scarf, 40 inches, hoping to get to 55. Gotta go for now. Her baby woke up. Enjoy the rest of your night. I hope everything goes well. Thank you for crafting with us. Good luck on your scarf. Mel doesn't count her picture books either. That's for class. See? Exactly. Garamond said it really depends on the genre for me. Poetry, I have read almost all of what I have. Nonfiction, definitely more unread than read. Fiction, I'd say mostly read. Yeah, I realized recently that I have a lot of unread nonfiction. And I think it was one of those things where, because I've started reading it a lot more frequently, which is great, but I still don't read it at nearly the rate that I do fiction. So if I buy even just like a few nonfiction books at a time, those can stack up pretty quick if I'm only reading like 1 or 2 a month. Huck, do you want to introduce your hat again? Mel was complimenting it.
Oh, hold on. Okay, remember the number 5. So, thank you. I made this today, or I finished it today. I made it over the last like 2 days. I actually, let me see if I can find. I got this from an Etsy pattern. I think the Etsy store name is called like the Enchanted Fae or something like that. But she has, or they have like a bunch of very cute hat patterns. I'm gonna make a whole bunch of their like different ones. How do I?
Is it just crochet, or do they do
I think
knitting
it's just
patterns?
crochet.
Okay.
Wait, how do I put something in the comments here? I don't see a spot to comment.
Okay, you might have to go and open up a YouTube tab, like mute the tab, and then
Thank you. Putting the number 5 in.
That was very kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, the thing about StreamYard is like unless you're the person like running it, it's pretty hard to engage with comments, like to post or anything.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to do it in another tab.
Okay, well, it is called the Entangled Fae. All one word. Fae is spelled Fae. And it is the Sprite Cap crochet pattern.
Okay. Sprite Cap crochet
pattern. Thanks for putting those in, Kara.
Yeah. Well, because it's also like YouTube will flag things as spam, even if they're just regular links. And I think if you're the one hosting it, like I'll see if I can find the link, because I think if you're the host, you can do links because they're assuming you're not spamming your own live show.
Right.
Let's see. Sprite Cap.
Uh-oh. My cat has realized that I'm using floss.
Oh no.
I was like lucky so far they hadn't noticed, but now he's like, "Ooh, you have string."
Yeah. Yeah, one of my cats is like hyper aware of any yarn or string things happening in her area. Like one of them, he pretty much doesn't care, and then the other one is like he'll sometimes be interested, but like you can like I can work in front of him and it's not a big deal. But Nala will launch herself across the room to get at a piece of dangling yarn. So I have to be very strategic. What's that, Hug?
Said a true hunter.
Yeah, she's the one too that like she was a stray. So it makes sense that, that she would be like extra focused on chasing things, but yeah. Okay, I'm still trying to find, maybe I'll search by the shop. That might be easier. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the one, he's not in here. My one cat that is like a death wish. We've already he's already had surgery once to remove string from his stomach. And like he's eaten rubber bands, hair things. He is just, I'm like, and like after that one surgery, we're like, no, if you want to, if you're suicidal, like, I don't know, like that's probably insensitive to say, but like, he's like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, why? Why are you still doing this? But it's like, and I have little kids, so they leave things out.
Yeah.
That they shouldn't. Like, I mean, I could put my hair things away, but they just throw them all over the place. My daughter this week was just like, she came home from preschool and suddenly had like a million rubber bands. I'm like, where did you even get those? And just had them like strewn all over the playroom. I'm like, okay, and now the cat's gonna get them. I don't even know.
Oh, I hope he stays okay. That is like really scary.
Well, so far he has like, after that surgery, everything else he's like chewed up enough that it's just come out, the other end. We're just gonna hope that is the continued pattern, that he chews it up. But like,
that's really scary.
Yeah, because there's only so much you can do.
Okay, I'm trying to find like a way to make this link like not 1,000 letters long. I don't understand. This is frustrating me. Anything that like all of the Etsy links are like the most obnoxiously long.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why is that? I just want to like, maybe I'll do a tiny URL. I don't know. I take this as a personal challenge now. I'm like really frustrated. Okay.
I don't know why they do that. So if you put
Yeah.
the shop name and you put the other thing, people should be able to find it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just leave that then. I found it easier searching by shop, so I'll just leave it there.
Etsy's also frustrating because sometimes, like, if you don't spell the shop exactly right, sometimes they don't even like you can't find it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I only had one letter wrong, and
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it's
it's
not
like if you're looking for a book on Goodreads,
I was thinking that.
it's easier to just Google the name of the book and it'll bring you to the Goodreads page.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Because even if you like don't put the in, sometimes it like doesn't find. It's like, really, like,
Yeah,
you can't just find me the book.
Yeah.
I made some good progress on my hat. I'm making another one of these hats. And for this one, I decided, I think I said at the beginning that like I don't have the exact right crochet hook size, and so I was choosing between going bigger or smaller. I went smaller, and I feel like that was a good choice because the stitches are tighter. This has it's a little stiffer, and so I think the hat will have a little bit more like, I don't know if it'll look that different on, but I like that it'll have a little bit more like body to it. So anyway, that's just an update on my crochet.
No, I love it. I'll finish this row and I'll show how much I've done. It's been more than I thought, actually. So that's exciting.
Crocheting is one of the like projects that I want to start. Like, I've bought all the stuff, so I'm listening to your your things. So someday I'll know what it means. The problem is that like it's something that I need to like sit down and practice without listening to anything, and I need to like try it. And I'm always like, but I want to do something I can do with my audiobook, but I need to like learn it first.
Yeah.
So I just need to commit to like, I'm going to spend a couple weeks and just not listen to anything and just focus.
Yeah. So in the long run, you can listen to many audiobooks.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my project update, and I've done most of from this little like marker here. So I mean, it's a really short row, so like it's not as impressive as it looks, but I'm pretty happy with it. And I think you can actually, I don't know if the lighting is slightly different, but you can actually see the color, like the heathered look.
Yeah, I can see the heathering.
Because half of it is going to be just regular gray. Kelly, you weren't here for the drama of why this is going to be multicolored, because basically I was dumb and I did not have enough yarn when I started. So I got halfway through and I'm like, I'm just going to add a completely different color and make it look purposeful. So that's what's happening.
Hey, you do what you got to do.
I think it's going to look nice because it's one of those ones that like you tie, like it looks like a ribbon like on a present, and then you like tie it around your neck. And I think it's going to look really cool to have half of it one color and half of it another. So we'll see.
It'll look like a purposeful design choice.
That's what I'm thinking. I wish there were more like, I know they're out there. I have like maybe 1 or 2 pattern books that are about this, but I wish that there were a lot more like pattern books that were geared towards using up tiny scraps of yarn. Or not even tiny ones, but like just, it's like I don't have enough to do a whole project, but this is way too much not to do something with. So like, what can I make from it? Because otherwise I keep having stuff like this happen where I think I have enough for a project and I don't.
I saw this person who, she was doing it with crochet, but what she was doing was with whatever like extra yarn she had, she would like make squares that were all the same size, and then she put them together into like a sweater or like a coat. So she would like sew together the squares, and like it depends on if that's kind of like a look that you would enjoy, because it's very patchwork looking. I think she did make sure that all of the yarn that she used, she only used scraps of yarn that were like all the same weight at least.
Right.
It wouldn't be too weird looking. But anyway, if you like a patchwork look, That could be fun.
Okay, that's something to think about. I also did find there's like a couple, I mean, probably more than a couple, but places that do like animal rescue or like animal shelters, and like they have really basic patterns where you just like make little snuggly things for the animals to like sleep on and stuff. So I'm
Mm,
probably gonna do
that's a good
some of
idea.
that. Yeah, I thought that's a really nice idea. And it's also like, it's obviously comforting for the animals, but also if they're calmer, they're more likely to get adopted. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good all
Do they have,
around.
well, I don't know if you know, do they have like, does it have to be like natural fibers or does
I
it?
That's the thing I was wondering about. I can't remember if the ones I was looking at specified, because that was something I was wondering about as well.
Mm.
Especially if it's like random scraps that you've had for like years. It's like, I don't know what this is made of.
Right, right. That's a very cute idea, though.
Yeah, I'll try to look
I
into it for our next crafting live show. I'll see if I have an update.
Yeah, I was looking at something kind of similar the other day because so like a month or two ago, I had made a baby blanket for like my second cousin, I think. And I was like, oh, this is just like a really like blankets take a long time, but also it was like this is a really
Mm-hmm.
simple project because it's just a square. And I was like, I want to make more of these, but what do I do with it? And apparently there's this thing that's called like the Linus Project, where you can like donate like blankets that they give to kids, um, which is also a cute idea.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was gonna
That
say
is
they
cool.
take I know, like, because I've been in quilting guilds, that a lot of times hospitals and women's shelters like will take
Right.
like like blankets made patchwork kind of blankets
mm-hmm.
that they can just give
Yeah,
out to people.
that is very cool. I wonder if, like, for the hospital ones, especially, if it would be kind of a similar, like, they'd want to know the fiber content, maybe, in case people have allergies.
That's a good point.
But I don't know for sure. And are there any, I don't know enough about fibers. Are there any that, like, are non, what would you call that? What's it called when it doesn't cause
Hypoallergenic.
allergies? Yeah. Are there any, like, I wonder if there's any of like the synthetic ones that like you can't have an allergy to? Because I like synthetic fabric or synthetic like yarns have come so far. Like honestly, some of them feel nicer than like the really fancy stuff, you know? Like, but
Yeah, I don't know. I guess because I've only done it with quilting, that like quilting fabric is just 100% cotton. Like most people just
right,
use cotton, so it's never like really a wonder about what's in it.
right, that makes sense. Did I do that right?
So I just thought this was funny. So when I read the very beginning of this book, it had the little thing at the front. I can never remember what that's called, where you have the quote at the front of the book.
Oh, epigraph, I think
Yeah.
maybe.
And it just made me laugh because it's a quote like this book is about an author, and this from the author, so it's not like a real person's quote, but it's like all children mythologize their birth.
I remember that.
Remember that? It's like it is a universal trait. You want to know someone, heart, mind, and soul? Ask him to tell you about when he was born. What you won't get, what you get won't be the truth. It will be a story, and nothing is more telling than a story.
Huh.
And
I remember reading that and being like, I don't think I've ever met somebody who has ever told me a story about their birth. And I certainly have not mythologized my birth. So I'm like, I think this is accurate.
well, the reason I thought it was funny is because I do tell the story about my birth quite a lot.
Oh, really? All right. Well, now I have met somebody who's done that.
Yeah.
Well, because so in college, like, well, I knew I had an interesting birth story, and then like in college, I was in theater, and one of the things that we had to do was we had to like interview a family member have them tell you a story in detail, and then you had to like embody that person and tell the story as that person.
Mhm.
And so
Uh-huh.
I did my dad and told the story of my birth from my dad's point of view, because my dad delivered me in an emergency childbirth. And so
Wow.
I've told
Oh
my
my
story,
gosh.
you know, like, because my dad told me like in detail his side of the like the story
Yeah.
as he like completely panicked.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense though, because that's like a very dramatic
Yeah, like,
story
that's a
that not a
story.
lot of people have.
Yeah.
And my parents talk about my birth like a lot because it is like not too many people were
Yeah.
born. Like, I mean, there are people that are like purposely born at home, but like as in like just born on the couch and then have ambulances show up and like all this stuff, you know.
I bet
So
no
I just
one's
thought
ever gonna have this. No, it's funny. It's like, I bet no one's gonna ever have the same icebreaker as you. Like, don't have to worry about that.
yeah. So
See,
I
you
just
would
thought
be
that was
great at parties.
Yeah. Circle back to Regency. Like,
yes,
Isn't
there you
that a
go.
great topic of conversation for a Regency party conversation? I don't know what they're talking about.
probably be very inappropriate. Yeah.
Well, they probably all were born at home.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, everyone
That's
would be like,
true.
yeah, that's just how it works.
That's how it is. You do it in the bed or whatever. Yeah. But my dad is also cracks me up because one time, like, obviously he had no idea what he was doing, and my mom, since it was her second child and she was a nurse, she was talking him through everything.
Uh-huh.
But like when I was in high school, my band teacher was very heavily pregnant, and she and my dad were going to see like a NASCAR race or something. And my dad was like, don't worry, I have experience if you go into labor. And she's like, Bernie,
God.
you are not delivering my baby. Like,
Oh my gosh. Don't worry, I've got this. Like,
yeah, like, I've got this handled. It's like, no.
That's hilarious.
So what are you guys reading? Like, not currently at the moment, but like what are you currently reading?
I am reading a few different things as see our previous conversation about doing multiple projects and reading multiple books. I am still technically reading the Divine Comedy, so we're not going to talk about that. But
It's a long-term project.
it really is. I was hoping to be done this October and like this month, and it's obviously not happening. But one that I just started and actually made me think of you, Kelly, because I know you're a big spooky middle grade fan. I just started The Girl in White by Lindsay Curry. I'm only like a couple chapters in, but I already really like it. It's like very atmospheric. It's like this girl who like lives in this like famously haunted city, but she thinks it's like dumb, and of course it's not dumb. It's actually going to be real. But I don't know. I just really like the writing so far, and the atmosphere is already like perfect. Actually, it'd be great if we could get some rain and I could read it when it's raining. But I mean, it'd just be great if we got rain in general. For people watching who may not have like heard me mention this before, but I live in California. We need rain pretty much all the time. Yeah, so that's like one of the ones that I'm actively reading. Also, This Is My America by Kim Johnson, which is very good so far, but it's going to be, I think, a really heavy one because it's kind of a mystery thriller, but it's also mainly a contemporary about like the justice system and capital punishment. So it's going to be, I think, very intense, but that one is also very good so far. And that one I'm like, maybe a quarter through, something like that. But it's reading very quickly. And I definitely want to finish that one this month too. I say it's the 28th, but I can do it. It's fine.
Yeah, I got stuff I'm still trying to like finish entire books by the end of the month. So.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We're always very optimistic of what we can do.
I know, I know. I mean, I have been doing pretty well. Like if I look at my little Excel spreadsheet, I'm actually doing really well. Like I was saying, I am on track to do basically every prompt for the way too many readathons that I'm doing. Almost all of them. There's a couple I probably won't get to, but I think I'm getting overconfident because I'm like, I'm reading so much. I can read like 7 more books before the month ends. It's fine. Yeah. Oh, I also live in this dry brown California and hoping for rain. Yes, you and me both. I hope we both get some. Like, winter is usually when we get most of our rain, but apparently it's not looking like it's going to be an especially wet season for us. So, not great, but we'll see.
So, Huck, sorry,
what are you reading? Yeah.
Oh, well.
It's complicated? Like,
well, no, it's because I'm trying to finish like almost an entire book by the end of the month. I just finished a book today. I just finished Lachlan's by Robert Jackson Bennett.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start there with like what I've actually finished. But I was listening to the audiobook and I like sped through it. But it was good, which is part of why I finished this hat today, because I just was like, I have to do something while I'm listening to this audiobook. So crocheting it is.
This is the library hold that you kept ignoring, right? Like,
yes. Yeah, and I returned it like 2 days before it was due, so I'm very proud of myself.
Yes.
Yeah, so I finished that today, and then I'm going back to what I was reading before that library hold, which was Seasonal Fears by Shauna McGuire, which is the like companion sequel to Middle Game. And yeah, I mean, I'm like 20%. I'm at the same place that I'm like 20% of the way into it. And so far I'm liking it. I can see why it's been getting less enthusiastic reviews than the first book, but I feel like it'll still be enjoyable, you know? Although I'm only 20% in, so there's still a lot of book left for me to either like or dislike it.
Yeah.
I have heard that it turns into a road trip, which I am not excited for. So.
Yeah. I've not read Middle Game yet.
I mean, I love the Middle Game. It's one of those books where I'm just like, it's not for everybody. Like, it's one of those books that I think it just really depends on like your taste, you know? That it can be hard to recommend or not, but I loved it.
Yeah. There are those books that it's like, I love this, but I never talk about it because I honestly have no idea who else would like it. Like, how do you know?
Okay,
what are you reading right now, Kelly?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Kelly, go ahead. And then I had another thing I was going to talk about.
Well, I'm like 4 pages into the 13th tale.
So that's going great.
Well, that's awesome. What else am I reading right now? I just did my Friday reads today, so like I should know what I'm reading. I'm listening.
I just had to open Goodreads, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm listening to Our Crooked Hearts, the new Melissa Albert book. It's like witchy. But I like hate the narrators, and so I'm like, should I switch to reading it physically? But I'm also really not liking this story, so I feel like if I try to switch now, I'll just give up on it. So I don't really know what I'm doing there. Like, I'm lost. And then I'm reading Castle Hangnail by Ursula Vernon.
Oh, I want to read that one still. Yeah.
Yes. Otherwise known as T. Kingfisher. So that's kind of like what's on the docket and what I want to finish. I would like to finish at least Castle Hangnail before the end of the month, and we'll see if I DNF our Crooked Hearts or not.
Yeah. If I let me actually look at how many books I would need to read or finish by the end of the month to make my completely arbitrary goal that I set myself, as we've been talking about. Okay, so I would need to finish 3 books that I'm already reading. And then also possibly 2 completely new books. I don't know if that's gonna happen unless it's like half of them are picture books or something.
Yeah, it's like, are they novellas?
So one of them could be a novella because I just need to pick like a book that I got recently, which I bought quite a few books in October, so I have lots of choices. Yeah, so we'll see if that happens. Stay tuned. Guillermo said, hoping La Nina is a little merciful and gives us some precipitation. Yeah. Also, it has to watch your currently reading video.
Well, it's very similar to what I just said.
Yeah, spoilers for the video.
Yeah.
So, Huck, what were you going to say before
Oh,
this remind you?
Okay, a thing that I've been like thinking about recently is have you seen those like either Instagram reels or YouTube shorts? Because we've established that I don't think any of us really use TikTok.
Yeah.
Where people talk about like, I guess people have done it in video format too, where they're like, these are 5 books that define my literary taste. And I've been thinking about this a lot, trying to figure out how I would define my literary taste in 5 books. And I have seen that there seem to be 3 different ways that people go about doing this. I'm going to come around to asking you guys how you would define your taste in books, but like I want to explain this part first. So sorry that you have to listen to my whole thought process.
Let's set the stage.
Yeah, you have to listen. There's the whole, setting the stage thought process. But the 3 ways that I think people seem to do it is one where you like essentially pick 5 books that are all sort of pointing at the same thing, right? Like if I've seen people pick like A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass and From Blood and Ash and The Cruel Prince and like Serpent and Dove. And like those are all kind of telling you the same thing about what their taste is, right? I've also seen a version where if people have like, they read a lot of different genres, they'll pick 1 book per genre to kind of go like, this book exemplifies like what I look for in this specific genre. And then kind of similar to that, I've seen a version also where people will go like, they'll do kind of more by like story element or trope or something. So if they love like friends to lovers or they love found family, they'll pick a book that is an example of like what they like of that type of trope. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other ways of doing this also, but those are the 3 that I have noticed in how people do them. Anyway, how would you how do you think you would define your reading taste in books? I feel like this is a difficult thing to ask, but
this is a big question to spring on us. No.
Hey,
I need like a half hour to think about this.
I have an advantage because my favorites shelf is like right next to me.
But this is the thing, is defining your taste, I feel like, is not the same as just having is what your favorites are.
Yeah.
No, but like if I wanted to pick things that especially exemplified things I love,
True.
Like but like I know what you mean. It's like they're different questions, but I think like I would build my answer using my favorite books. Because when you were describing like the different ways people would answer it, the thing I thought of, I guess that's most similar to, maybe it was the 3rd one you described, where it's like you hone in on like specific elements, and like because I would use the 5 books to be as different as possible from each other, because I do read a lot of different genres and kinds of books, and so I would want to pick like but then again, it's like, what if there's like Overlap.
Okay, so then in that case, what if it was instead of having to choose books, what would be like the things that you would have to choose books for?
Okay.
Is that easier?
Yeah, I think that's easier for me. Okay, so probably would have to have at least one book that has like one of my classic favorite protagonist types, which is not the chosen one, just being a regular person,
Doing their best.
doing their best. Yes. Also, would probably have to be a very well executed enemies to lovers book in there. Lots of female friendship. It'd have to be, I mean, probably multiple books on this list would have to be ones where it's like the story is great, but also the themes, like it says something. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other things.
I feel like you also, I mean, now I'm like telling you what you.
You're like, let me build your answer.
Hey, that might be easier.
I know. I love it. Go ahead.
I do think it's kind of interesting to see what other people think of your taste when you have like if they watch and they know what you've read and what you think about it, what they would say. Because I also think that you really like books where the person has a hobby or a passion.
True.
Yeah.
That goes beyond just the plot of the book, you know?
Yeah. That's a very astute observation. I don't think I'd put that together about my taste before. It's just funny as I'm sitting here knitting, like
yeah.
Because I do know there are like specific like activities that I love reading about. Like there's one, actually, Huck, you did a review video on this book a while back, and that's where I heard about it. But like Torn by Rowena Miller, because I love the idea of a fantasy book that has like a huge plot element that's based on like textiles or like weaving. So like I know that there are specific like activities or crafts that I love reading about, but I don't think I'd like
magic.
Yes, baking magic. I love that. I don't think I'd like internalize it. Like you just like watching people like stuff and be good at it.
But you liked that one that was like the one where the boy was playing cards, even though you don't play spades.
Yeah.
Like you enjoy the fact that they like were playing. It's like overall it seems like, and you like the baking magic and knitting and like even your fantasy one. Don't they do sewing magic or something in that one? The half a soul one.
Yes, they kind of.
Yeah, and there's that like romance that was the late something mechanical. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a sapphic romance. It's like a historical.
Oh, I was thinking about that one. Yeah, I love and that's something where it's like I think about that as like specifically. Oh, I love like when embroidery or like women's work is treated as like important in the story. But I think just in general, I like hobbies. So thank you for teaching me something about myself, Kelly. This is great. Now, let's all go around and explain something about each other's like reading taste. No, honestly, like I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me.
I love
see the pattern.
Things like that. I was talking to somebody recently, like, you know, like a first meeting where you have to kind of like tell me about yourself. And so I was just telling them about some of my like interests and hobbies and stuff. And they were like, you really like categorizing stuff, don't you? And I was like, oh my God, I do. So many of my interests are just categorizing stuff. But yeah, it's very fun when somebody can like observe something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What would be some of the things that you would pick out, Kelly? So not necessarily like which books would you use, but like what Huck was asking me about, like what things do you think would have to be in them to define your reading taste?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think because I have a hard time with like specific tropes. I think like I do kind of like very specific subgenres are how I would describe my taste. Because like you said, I like spooky middle grade, but I would say even more so, like if I were to narrow that down, I like spooky middle grade that's in a like historical fiction setting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like, I don't necessarily like the modern ones as much as I like something that's like maybe set in the Victorian period or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want the extra element, and I want like maybe some family stuff, like with root
Mm-hmm.
magic, how there was like family stuff.
Yeah.
It's historical, it's spooky, it's a little bit of everything mixed up. So I'm trying to think if there's specific tropes. I also like in like, I guess if it comes to romance, whether that's a romance book or a romance fantasy or whatever, I want a hero that's just like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like a real thing. Is that like a real trope? I mean, if it's like an
I think
alpha
they're
male,
called betas. Yeah.
I just want the guy to be nice, and I want him to care more about her pleasure than his. Like I want a like very focused guy in the like,
Yeah.
in the romance, but I don't know.
I think romance is like especially personal preference, you know, like it's so, I think we might have talked about this before, Kelly. It's like so affected by what you personally find attractive, or not even necessarily attractive, but like a good quality in a person. Like, because there can be a romance where it's like, I think this is probably well written and well characterized, but everything this character does is a turn off for me. Like, you know,
It's
it's
so
just
hard to get behind the romance when you're like, oh,
yeah, because it's like, oh, I can't picture being attracted to this person. It's like I don't
Mhm.
specifically have to find them attractive, but if it's so outside of what I don't know, like, it can be hard to like buy into the story, even though it obviously is like different, you know, different people. But yeah, I also I think my taste in love interest, it's kind of like I either want him to be, especially in a historical setting, it's like I want him to be like really sweet and really nice and not at all like bossy or an alpha, which is probably one of the main reasons why I almost never like romances where the hero is like in the peerage or like whatever. It's like if you're a duke, it probably makes sense why you're a total ass because you've never had anyone tell you no in your life. But I don't want to read about you. So
Yeah.
I prefer where it's like, well, like I loved that Mimi Matthews novella, the Christmas one, that was like he's in trade. I love a Victorian working man, apparently. So I like really like sweet guys. It's like if I'm reading fantasy, it's like I want like a really dramatic character arc. You can be absolutely horrible at the beginning as long as it's not like in specific ways. I don't know. It's like I am willing to like put up with a lot in a fantasy setting for a really dramatic character arc if you do a good job with it, you know? But if I'm reading like a contemporary and the guy even tells the girl like what she can wear one day, I'm like, you're dead to me. Like
you're done.
cannot get on I cannot get on board. Because I think it's like it's supposed to feel like the real world, you know, it's supposed to be so much more immediate. So I can't read that and not think about like, all right, how would I feel if somebody said this to like my friend or my sibling or like me? It's like absolutely not. Whereas in a fantasy, there's all that distance, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably could handle a lot more. Like, 'cause I don't like possessive guys, but
Yeah.
I can handle a little more in a fantasy when he's like trying to protect her from like a dragon.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
if he's just like being macho and being like, "Don't talk to my woman," in a contemporary, I'm like, no, like, no,
Yeah.
we're not having any of that.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like in like a fantasy setting or another like, you know, very distant genre, even if it's like in a different genre, but like the behavior is like specifically like I think even in a fantasy I would have a hard time with a male character being like don't touch my woman, you know, like whereas if like the things that he did are like you are actually a bad person at the beginning of this series, it's like that I feel like I am more willing to like give the author time to develop. And I don't know what that says about me, but I think the issue is that like if they are red flags that could still happen today in like a regular, you know, relationship, that for me is like really hard to get over. But if it's something like we were saying where it's like, oh, he like used a dragon to like scare a village, it's like, okay, really bad, but that's not something that's going to happen today, so I can like watch you develop out of that.
Yeah. And I guess it's supposed to be like me telling you, I don't know, I'm having trouble with this question. It's like I'm throwing out random things, but I'm having, this is why I'm like, I can't think of this off the top of my head, Huck. Like, I need
we need like 7 to 10 business days of like,
because I don't even know. I cannot describe, because I have such an eclectic literary taste. Like, there's so many different things
me
that I
too.
like, but I also know when I don't, what I don't like. If somebody talks about a book and I'm like, no, that is not for me.
Yeah.
I usually know it.
Maybe this will be like next time we do this.
Like, this will be our homework. Is
yeah,
like,
this is your homework.
I actually, there's this maybe was it Hannah from Ladette M who did like a tag that was like a mixtape, and it was kind of like you look at page numbers, and I have all my answers ready, and I'm just so behind on tags that I haven't done it yet. But it's like basically kind of like this idea is like you are summing up your reading taste, or like you're maybe it's just that you're picking like a certain number of books you love or something. But I was using it to like kind of triangulate, you know, various areas of my reading taste. And that was like, you still have to narrow it down and make cuts. And that was like 10. That was like 10 books that I had to choose. So it should have been easier. Garamond said, I love reading about food. Please describe everything on the table of a rich feast, you know? Yeah. I'm like that. I do like a good food description, but I'm also like that with like clothing. Like sometimes I'll see it is possible to do too much of it, but it's like sometimes I'll see like reviewers complaining about like, oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing about these like fancy dresses. And I'm like, describe it again. Tell me exactly what kind of fancy dress. And then OMG, Kara, historical working class guy. Yeah. Not even very into romance, but yes, that is way better than 500 dukes and lords and whatever. Sorry to the dukes. Exactly. Like, it's like North and South. I think one of the reasons I am such trash for North and South is that, like, it's that same dynamic. And I think it gives, like, the male character some humility because, like, they weren't born into, like, an obscene amount of, like, money and privilege. And, yeah, I just think like in this historical setting, I don't enjoy reading about guys who get everything they want, because a lot of times that includes the main female character, and I just don't want to do that. It's like, I'm not saying it's not believable, but I sure as heck don't want to read about it in a book that's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I avoid a lot of historical romances because of this. I have to like be very picky about the authors that I choose because I want to know I can trust them. And I feel like a lot of them that I liked lately weren't like nobility or whatever that's called. Because it's like we both read Mimi Matthews. I know you read the second book in that series, The Bells or whatever.
Yeah, and I read the first one as well, and I liked that one too.
Yeah, and the first one, he's
him a lot.
Tailor. I mean, yeah, working class.
Working class. Also describes a lot of clothes, so perfect for me. Yeah, I really enjoy that. I guess that also goes back to what you said about I like when people have an interest or a hobby or something they're very good at. Exactly. It's so much more believable they would not be awful because double effect of patriarchy and wealth. Exactly. And like North and South is like, I think a good example of that because like John Thornton, I mean, he has some really not great ideas about like why poor people are poor, but you understand why his backstory made him think that way. And he spends a good chunk of the book realizing that those are bad things and like wrong things. And the characters have to grow, and it's a great time. I love North and South, in case you can't tell. Yeah, exactly. Look at him go. Self-awareness. We love it. Like, I mean, one of my favorite scenes in that whole book is near the end where like he's talking about how I'm not going to give any spoilers in case people haven't read it yet, but like he's talking about like some of the ideas he has about like working better, but like better conditions and better like relationship between like the mill owners and like the workers and everything. And like one of my favorite scenes, I think one of the most romantic scenes in the whole book, is like Margaret is listening and he goes over to her and he's like, basically he's like, did I do good? And she's like, yeah, you did good. Like it was like, I love it. I love it so much.
Oh my God. I actually was just reading a book where like I was thinking about like what works in romances. Like I tend to like very like wholesome romances where like they're just nice people.
Yeah,
they're trying their best. But the romance dynamic started out as mostly like sarcastic banter, and I was just like, I don't care about this. Like this does nothing for me. I like it does not make me care about or believe anything about their relationship that they can have snarky banter back and forth. I was just like, do something else. And then there's a certain point in the book where they like start sharing their hobbies with each other. And I was just like, all right, I'm on board.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. She like is doing gardening and he's like, look, this is my workshop. And I was just like, I'm into it.
Look at those two in love. Like, I am like really particular about banter, but I love it when it's good. Like, I mean, Beatrice and Benedict, iconic. Like, and so here's the thing too, and this is one of the things that I feel like can make me dissatisfied with like a romance that is supposed to have really great banter, is I want them to still like respect each other. Like, Beatrice and Benedict are like talking shit about each other like most of that play, but like they respect each other so much like as people and like as like opponents. Like it's like I don't like when, especially on the male character side, it's like I don't like it when it feels like he's calling her stupid, or like even as like a joke or even as like banter. It's like I don't like that. That is not fun to me or romantic to me. Like I don't want to think about the two love interests like being nasty to each other. I don't know. It's hard to explain how I can like hate to love and yet I don't want them to be like specific kinds of mean to each other, but I'm very particular about banter.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And when you think about like Beatrice and Benedict, like obvious, I mean, it might not come across on the page, but when you watch the play, they don't ever seem to like or at least the times I've seen it and in the movie and the plays I've seen, they more like are smirky, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're glaring eye daggers at each other. It's like like if they're having fun while they're like insulting each other.
Yeah. Which I think also makes it so much more believable that they can, with like these deceptions, they can be brought to like actually have romantic feelings for each other, because you can kind of see that already. Like it makes sense. Also, like the fact that I think Benedict, even though he can be, some of the things he says at the beginning of the play is like, oh, okay, you know, classic Elizabethan misogyny. We knew it was going to happen. But like overall, he actually is like really respectful of like the female characters. Like the fact that he's like, even Hero's own dad doesn't believe her about what happens, but Benedict believes her, you know, like he believes her when he barely even knows her, because he's like, everyone just calm down. Let's like not kill a person right now. Like yeah, it's like he gets points for Elizabethan feminism. Like
yep. And yeah, I can't think of any other very specific parts of my taste. So Huck, since you've been thinking about this, do you have your
let's hear your answers.
No, I don't have a good answer for this.
I think that's cheating.
No, it means I'm in the same boat as you guys.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking though that I might go more like the route of kind of picking things that all point to the same
I
thing.
was thinking about that. I was picturing, I was like, okay, Queens of Innis Lear, The Lost
Right.
Queen, Juliet Marillier. Like, I feel
Right.
like,
Yeah. That's the thing is like, I think that as I have, like, I don't read as widely, like, as you do, Kara, but like, I try to read a couple of different, like, genres and things like that. But I don't necessarily, I think that I think of those more as like one offs and less like a core part of my taste. And like, and because from especially like from being on booktube, reading so many books, talking about them so much, analyzing my own reading, I have realized that my reading taste is much more narrow than I may have really thought. And it is like, yeah, so the thing is, I feel like there are kind of two camps that my reading taste falls into, and like 90% of it is in one camp, which is like, which is like you were saying, yeah, like Queens of Innis Lear, you know, Juliet Marillier's books, The Lost Queen. I feel like even the Raven Cycle could go in there, and I would just
yeah,
need to pick like
vibes.
one. Yeah, it's all telling me something about like the type of writing, characters, like atmosphere, settings. Like there are certain and like tropes like that those all kind of have in common. And then there's this other category, which what defines them is that I'm like, I don't know.
Middle game.
Right. No, see, you're saying exactly what I'm thinking. Because there are books that I read that I'm just like, this is not like anything else that I've read. And I don't know what's going on, but I love it. And I can't, yeah. I'm just like, and also a lot of times there are those books, like I think we were talking earlier about like things that you're like, I don't know how to recommend this to anybody, you know? And a lot of times they're also the type of books where like, if I do recommend it, part of it is being like, look, you have to go into this book with no expectations because there is no way to explain to you what this book actually is like before you read it. And if you go in with expectations, it's not going to work out. You just have to go for the ride and let it be what it's going to be because it's going to be weird, you know?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Middle Game goes in there. I think like the Tenseret series by Neon Yang is kind of, it's less weird, but it's still like, how do I describe what this series is?
Yeah.
What other things? I feel like to a certain extent, there's something about like The Binding by Bridget Collins that I'm like, look, I can't explain what the book is about or what it's like without just explaining everything that happens in the book.
Yeah. We have rich emotional development between the characters for Huck. Beautiful fantasy setting. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's true. Also, I feel like modern banter is harder for me not to think is corny. Yeah, I should specify, I can think of maybe 2 books I've read that were contemporaries where I liked the hate to love romance. Like so often I think it either feels cheesy or it feels like this is a red flag, dump this man.
Yeah.
Like
toxic. This is a toxic relationship. Yeah, I do feel like I do better with the hate to love. I think it also is because people in the past couldn't necessarily just come right out and say they liked each other.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the banter is like hiding those, you know, like is keeping that barrier of like I'm not allowed to say I like you, so I'm pretending I hate you.
And it also like I love a good romance subplot more than an actual genre romance. Like I love feeling like I want more, but I don't need more because it's perfect. And it's like I think that kind of goes along with it too, is like when you have a really like subtle romance element and also when it is in like a certain time period, that's when you get those great moments where it's like you're like, oh my gosh, I am losing my mind. Like they touched hands. What are we gonna do? It's like I love that feeling. It's like,
yeah.
He looked at her for longer than 2 seconds.
I know. I love that. I do love Much Ado About Nothing though, so I'm on board with that. Yes, it's like that's one of those where I'm like, even if people say they don't like Hate to Love, I'm like, that's one of the ones that I think is worth trying anyway. Also, there's a lot of bad Hate to Love. Like Hate to Love that is not slow burn is unworthy of the name. Also, I think we are about up on our time that we were planning to. Like, I know some of us have things that we have to get to. So, any final thoughts? Sorry, I kind of like cut us off right in the middle there, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's 6:30, which is when I said that we would finish.
Yeah. I mean, I got nothing. It's 9:30 here. My kids are asleep, so whatever.
Oh.
I mean, I can go a little bit. I can go a little bit longer if we want to.
Okay, cool.
I do need to like actually go to bed soon.
Yeah. We'll take like a few minutes to wind down then.
Okay.
Anybody have anything coming up on their channel that they want to like plug or just, talk about? As I said, Huck and Kelly are already linked in the description. I'm trying to think of other housekeeping things. But
I don't really know if I have anything like interesting coming up. So
I'm so bad. I know people like plan their videos. I'm just like, what am I in the mood for now? I'm just gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Or if it's the end of the month, I'm gonna talk about the books I read. I am not creative on that part. I want to be more, but I just do not have the mental capacity right now to be creative on my channel.
Yeah. My problem is like the time sensitive videos always take up so much more like effort and time that like it's like I might really want to do a more creative one. It's like, okay, but my wrap up's already late. I really need to do that,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think of late wrap ups is just part of my brand at this point, but it's also not entirely my fault. YouTube's auto captions are the worst.
Yeah, I think the only things I have coming up are going to be like wrap ups. I'm working on a reading vlog right now that I still have to read one book before the end of the month, which I haven't even started yet. So
we believe in you. You can do it.
Hopefully that'll happen. And I'm considering doing a TBR for November, which would be like maybe my first like actual TBR of the year.
So, go wild.
I know.
Go. Yeah. I'm like panicking.
And also
that
somehow
I know.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I'm panicking that it's already like almost November.
Oh my God.
Like this year. I just don't even know what it's
Yeah.
I know we say that all the time, but for some reason I feel like since 2020, time has
it's the pandemic. It's like the pandemic time. Yeah, like
we're in some
we're still in one, so it makes sense that we're still like feeling like this. But that's why I was like so shocked that I like this year was my fifth booktube anniversary. I'm like, there's no way. I was thinking it would be like 3 or something. It's like, well, that's because half of these years don't feel like they really happened. Like,
yeah, that's a thing that's like so weird to me is that I feel like more of my channel should have existed before the pandemic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like of my channel's life, I feel like more of it happened before then, but it's literally like half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, so I was like, had I only been doing this for like what 2 years or something when the pandemic started? Yeah. Maybe it was 3 years. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a random topic that you made me think of when you were talking about like middle game and those kind of ones. So there are certain books that are talked about a lot, like on BookTube and stuff, that are those books that everybody's like, I can't tell you what this is about, but they're like really popular. And like you can hear like a million reviews and I can still be like, I have no idea what that book is about.
Yeah.
It's like that one, Piranesi. I mean, I've read that now, but like before I read it, I'm like, I got no idea. what this is about, even though everybody's talking about it. The ones like the one by Aaron Morgenstern, like the
the
newer
Starless
one.
Sea.
Yeah, no idea what that's about.
That one doesn't have a lot of plot anyway. So.
Yeah, but there's like all these ones that are like people talk about them all the time, and I'm like, but what is it?
I know. And it's not even like sometimes I'll have even read a book and I'm like, what is this book about? Like that happened with Hidden Sea by Gregory Maguire, which is like a weird ass Nutcracker prequel, supposedly. And like in my wrap up, I was like trying to summarize it and I just had to read the back of the book because I'm like, I have no idea what happened to this. Like it's so weird. And I also didn't like that book very much, but like it just like I never just read a summary, and I had to for this one because I'm like, I truly like I just read this book and I could not tell you what the main point of it is. Like
yeah. So what do you do with those? Like, are you the kind of person that just goes and just trusts? You're like, oh, somebody I like Kara has talked about this book, so I'm just gonna pick it up. Or are you one of those that is like, I'm gonna find out what this book is about. I'm gonna read the description and I'm going to like understand more.
It depends. Like I think a lot of it, if it's somebody who I specifically know that our reading tastes align a lot, like sometimes I will kind of just, trust and like try it, but usually they'll have said something about it where it's like, everyone is right that you can't really summarize it, but I love the way it talks about like, family or like something like that. Like there will be something I have to hold on to about why I think I might like it. But sometimes it's like I get to a point where I'm like, I don't even know enough about this book to decide if I want to read it. So like I will just like try and figure it out from like Goodreads or like Wikipedia or something. Like yeah. I know it is like kind of frustrating that there's those books that are just like apparently impossible to summarize like we normally do on BookTube. I will say though, for like the Raven Boys, that's one of those where I like give the summary and I'm like, that's true, but that's not what this series is about. Like,
right. I do the exact same thing. Yeah. Like here's it's the plot, not what it's about.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's happened to me a few times recently. There's been a couple books I've read where it's like the synopsis is not incorrect, but it is misleading. Like this is not going to give you an actually good like handle on like what this book is actually doing. So
also I think sometimes there are books it's like, what is it that you get out of the book or what people like about it or something. Like I was thinking about, because recently in a video I was talking about Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton, which like I usually describe as like no plot, just vibes.
Yeah.
And I always try to like, maybe I overemphasize it, but I kind of really emphasize that because I have seen a lot of people like dislike the book because they were like, because there's so little plot to it, because they're like, oh, this sounds like such a cool plot. And then they were like, oh, but like the plot is like barely there when you actually read it. And like when I read it, I really enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it because I like the writing and the atmosphere. And there's like, it's in this like evil forest and there's like a little bit of foresty body horror and like all of that kind of stuff. And it uses character tropes that I like and stuff like that. But I'm like, I really want you to know there is no plot. Like, go in for the vibes. You will be very happy. Otherwise, don't read the book.
Well, and like even Frances Harding, one of my all-time favorite authors, I have been reading and loving her books for I don't even know how many years now, a while. And I still struggle so much to like summarize the majority of her books. Like there's a couple that I can give you a pretty good rundown on. Like Gulfstruck Island is one of my favorites from her. And it's also one of the ones where I'm like, okay, I feel like I can actually summarize the premise for you in a meaningful way. But like Unraveler, the one I just finished that we talked. You got it. Yeah,
I just
like
got
I
it like
loved that
yesterday.
one. That's very
It's-
exciting.
It's
I
so
hope
pretty.
yes, it is. I really hope you enjoy it and that I haven't
I
like
hope so
steered
too,
you
because I just
wrong.
want to display this.
Yeah.
Also, I just have to tell you that so when I got this in the mail, my mom was with me, and so I was showing it to her, and she was like, "Can I read this book?" And I was like, "Well, Kara likes it, so you'll probably like."
Kelly, we have like a running joke that like Huck's mom and me are we have like basically the same reading taste and also
Almost
like
exactly
very
the same reading taste.
yeah, almost exactly. Like if we could do that little Goodreads check thing, I feel like it'd be like 95% similar or something.
Really
like
close Venn diagram.
it's like absolutely ridiculous. So, well, I hope you both enjoy it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when it's like I loved it and I can kind of tell you some of the big ideas, but that doesn't communicate the things that I think make that book special or that I like really enjoyed about it. Like her books, like they have plots, and in some of them I think the plot is more important than others, but like that's not what I think drives the story, and that's not what I love about her stories. Like I love like her characters and her writing and like her themes, and like all of those things are like not things you can really summarize. Like I don't know, it's kind of like what you were saying with Tessa Gratton, where it's like how do you summarize vibes? Like you can't really
Right, well, that's
how
why,
to
like,
sum
so
up
many
a vibe.
Well, yeah, like whenever if I'm so many, I love atmosphere in books so much, and like vibes are really important to me. And so I just feel like whenever I have a book that I'm excited about and I want to like tell people about it, all I can be like, look, it's really atmospheric. The writing is beautiful. I don't know how else to explain this to you, but it's great.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that like I like some of that like appeals to me, and I'll be like, oh, atmospheric, but there's different type of atmospheric. Like
Right.
Yes.
I love, like I just read What Moves the Dead, and I loved the like atmosphere, that gothic creepy atmosphere. So I didn't need a lot of plot. But then like I read what is it called? The one Catherine Arden, the
Oh, the girl
Bear
in
and
the
the
Tower?
Nightingale.
No, the Bear and
Yes.
the Nightingale. Why
I
did I
hated
say
it.
the second book?
This is a Bear and the Nightingale hatred safe space, because like Huck and I we actually buddy read the second one and we both hated those books. So
We buddy read the second one because we both hated the first one so much,
yeah,
and would just
but we
like
wanted to give it a
complain
try.
about it all the time.
Yeah. And it's one of those, like, I think the reason that I wanted to try the second one anyway is I'm like, I should like this. I feel like I should like
Yeah.
this. And I did not. Like, oh
Yeah,
my
'cause
God.
it's
The Not Like Other
atmosphere,
Girls.
like,
The Not Like Other Girls is like absolutely like it's to the point where I'm like, is this a parody? Like, is this are you genuinely writing this? Like
After after reading that book, I did like a whole video about like this is a character trope that I feel like is so popular. That's not only the like not like other girls, but also the like you can't tell me what to do, and so now I'm gonna go do something that is obviously stupid.
yeah.
Because I don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. I made a whole video about it because I was like so annoyed.
I am really tired of the like strong, I mean, it happens a lot with female characters, but not just female characters, but it's like the strong character because I like backtalk people who could have me executed. Like, I'm like, why?
Or who could help me, or giving me like very reasonable advice in a situation where I know literally nothing, and yet somehow I think I know better.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go almost die, and then they have to almost die saving me because I decided to be stupid instead of listening to the advice.
Yeah.
So like
I also
like
what?
Like throughout the class. Like that's why I gave up. I was like, lady, like this person is telling you that this is dangerous. It's obviously like can you just trust that like like don't be dumb just because you want to be the strong one and make your own choices. Like this is obviously a bad thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and like when I was complaining to you, Huck, about Heart of the Fae, like that female character is like, I think I said she's like all sass and no substance. I'm like, being sassy is not like an entire personality. Like, stop it. And the weird thing about Catherine Arden is like, Kelly, I know you have finished the series too. I loved her Small Spaces series. And like,
Yeah.
it is honestly, it's weird to me that the author who wrote those books also wrote the Winter Night books, because the entire perspective on girls is like so different. Like, I don't know. Maybe she was working through some things in the Winter Night books. I don't know. But
I
like,
don't know.
it's just,
It's totally
yeah.
different.
Oh
They're
my
totally
God.
different.
There, Garamond is saying The Wolf and the Woodsman. I DNF'd that book because, like, so much because of this. I'm
Back
like,
talk
oh
to
my
the
God.
executioner, people. Yeah. I also want to throw Jen's recommendation in. She's halfway through Unraveler and loving it, so that makes me happy. Yeah, this is one of those, like I said when I finished it, like when Hannah and I did our live show, it's like I gave it 4.5 stars, but I'm like, it might be a 5-star. And like, this is actually going to be one that I go back and change to 5-star, because like the more I like think about it, the more I'm like, this is 5-star material. Like, I think also sometimes when it's an author I love and like I'm reading one of their newer books, sometimes I like compare it to their other books that I have like read and reread for a lot longer, and I feel like that's not fair, like, because I've had so many times to enjoy these other books, and so it's like, yeah, in comparison maybe this one doesn't have the exact same feeling because I'm not rereading it, you know. I don't know.
I feel like I have to like take a deep breath after that.
I know.
Like,
I feel like we all got like very
conversation.
enervated, yeah, about Baron the Nightingale.
Like venting a little bit, just a little bit.
Yes. Well, and also it's because like you almost never hear from people who didn't like those books, because that's the thing. If it was like, those are the ones that I think like personally offend me more. Is not just like I didn't like a popular book. It's like I didn't like a popular book that I literally never hear anyone else dislike. It feels like, you know, like it just bottles up.
Yeah.
Robin Hobb. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing that happens to me with like, well, I don't know. You've heard me talk a lot of times, Karen, about like Brandon Sanderson's books. Like I read the first Mistborn book and I didn't hate it. It just was like okay to me, and I didn't really feel like continuing on with the series, but it was fine. But like the amount that people like talk about it and it's like so glowing,
Yeah.
and that it's also held up as like the epitome of all fantasy, and if you don't like this book then you're not a real fantasy fan or like whatever, has made me more like bitter about it. Whereas if nobody had talked, like if that hadn't happened, if people didn't like bother you about it, I would have been much more just like, it was whatever. I didn't feel like reading the rest of the series, but like it was fine. But I have a lot more feelings about it because of how much it's like talked about in that way.
Well, and I haven't read that many from him, but so far Mistborn is my least favorite. Like it was fine. I liked it, but I've enjoyed other things from him more. So I feel like it's weird that like I guess people say like it's a good book to start with rather than like it's some of his best, but I don't even think it's a good book to start with. Like all of the other female characters that I've read from him are so much better written. So, I don't know. What were you going to say, Kelly? I'm sorry.
Well, it's that thing of like when people tell you like if you don't like this, you like that whole thing, or like the when you don't like something and they like make it something wrong with you that you don't like something, makes me so bitter and makes me want to like not read anything in that genre or that person. Like you said, like I'm having that issue with manga that I have just discovered manga this year, like as in like just, I mean, I knew about it, but like just started reading it, and I've been doing those and like I feel like I was very clear in those videos that I'm trying the first volume because I just don't even know, like this is a whole new medium to me. I have no idea where to start, and I'm not going to be one of those people that reads like if I'm not enjoying the first volume, even if it's like a really popular series, I'm not going to push myself because I don't want to like be like, oh, I hate manga. Like, no, I want to like, oh, I've enjoyed this first volume, so I'm going to continue this series and then kind of go from there. And I get like the most horrible comments from One Piece fans. And it's like, well, now you've just made it so I will never read that series.
Yeah.
And I might have come back to it after trying some things that pulled me in right away. It's not like I'm saying that this is like objectively a bad series just because I didn't really like the first volume and I don't want to continue right now. I'm still in my beginning journey. I want to try things that pull me in right away. But because you're like attacking me for not loving your thing, and like not even just like saying, I mean, like the things they say, it's like, it's so mean and rude where they're like, like it's literally attacking. Like I shouldn't respond. I usually don't respond, but I did respond to this person the other day and we kept going back and forth and they're like, why do you even call yourself a reviewer and all this stuff? And I'm like, I literally read a book and told you what I thought about it. What do you think a reviewer is?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you want from me. Just you want to like everything? Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that you get those. Like, I also just think in general, I get so irritated when people are like, oh yeah, like the first 4 are not good. And then you get to the, like, it's like, okay, there have been a couple of times where I'm like, if it's a series that I'm continuing or like maybe one that I've reread or something where I'm like, okay, I don't usually say this, but I do feel like these aspects of this first book get way better in the sequel. So if the concept interests you, but you're disappointed with this first one, I would think it's worth trying, like whatever. But I try not to do that too often because I find that so annoying. And also there's a difference between like, this book was like not the best, but there were things I enjoyed about it. It's like if you tell me that the rest of the series is like amazing, okay, yeah, I will give it a try. But if you're like, oh yeah, the first half of the series sucks, and then you get to a decent book, I'm like, why? Like, why would I want to read that? Why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
Today I like just posted a review of the Davabad trilogy where I had a point where I was like, look, I didn't really love the first book, but I read the second one because I already owned it. And the first half was okay, but the second half was great. I don't want to be one of those people that's like, you have to read a book and a half for it to get good. But also, to me, it was definitely worth it to read a book and a half before it got good. And then I was like, I love this. However, there are also people who love the first book, so like, why listen to me? But but I was specifically talking about that exact thing about being like, I don't really want to be the person who's like, oh, you just have to get through like a whole book and a half before it's good.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like if that's like, there are people that want to do that, but I am just not the kind of person that can push through a lot. Like maybe I could do 1.5 books, but like those people that are like, you have to read 4 books. I'm like, 4 books? That's a lot of books.
It also depends on like, I think like Kara was saying, kind of like how much is it, like how bad, you know? Is it like it was just okay, so it's encouragement that it gets better, or it's like, okay, so they're really terrible, but then it gets kind of good.
Well, it's like my experience with the Grisha books. I read the whole trilogy, and then I read Six of Crows and gave up. Because like people kept saying, they're like, it's Six of Crows is like so much better. It's so much better. And it is significantly better than the Grisha trilogy, because I thought the Grisha trilogy kind of sucked. But Six of Crows to me, and this is maybe partly a result of the hype, because this is another book that people are just like, so they love it so aggressively that it's like hard not to go in with, you know, fairly high expectations. But I'm like, this was like the most okay book I've ever read. Like it was fine. It was fine, and because I was expecting it to be amazing, I'm really disappointed. And it's like, yeah, you were right, it got better, but I don't think it was worth 4 books. I wish I had saved my time. Like,
you're cracking me up here. I love it.
Speaking of like unpopular opinions, I know like a lot of, I think also if I had read it when people were just getting into it, maybe I would have liked it better, because I wouldn't have had so long for that hype to like, you know, just like simmer in the back of my head. But
I'm still trying to Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I don't even know if I'm going to read Six of Crows, because I didn't make it through the whole Grisha. I did not like the first book. and then the second book I DNF'd in the middle. And so I'm like, I'm definitely not going to finish the Grishaverse trilogy. Yeah. So I'm assuming I could just read Six of Crows, but then do I want to? I don't know.
It's like, that's one of those where like so many people like it that I would say you can at least give it a try. But like, I think I'm just going to be a Grishaverse hipster because I'm actually really excited about King of Scars, even though I know people hate the ending of that duology, because I'm like, it's about the only characters that I actually care about. So if I don't like this, I think I just need to break up with Leigh Bardugo. Which, like, she's doing great. So, like, it's not like
she doesn't need you.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like she really doesn't. It's like she's over here like, okay, fine, don't read my books. And I'm like, I have no power over your success. I hope you're doing well. You know, like she's clearly doing well for herself. But
yeah. I mean, I think that if you wanted to read Six of Crows, you definitely can read that duology independently of anything else in the Grishaverse. Yeah. I was very like about like lukewarm about the Grisha trilogy, or is it called the Shadow and Bone trilogy now? But I hate it when they name series after the first book. Like have a series title like name that's different. But whatever, that's beside the point. But I really liked the Six of Crows duology. I thought it was very fun. But I read that before reading the Grisha trilogy. And also, I think I read it at a good time because I read it like right when, or like a little bit after the second book had come out. So like there was definitely hype for it, but like not the same level. It was still relatively new.
Yeah. It's like sometimes I feel like I can successfully wait out the really intense hype for it, and then sometimes I try and then I read the book and I'm like, I should have read this immediately. Like this it didn't work. Yeah.
Hype is one of the negative things about like I feel like being on BookTube is like things can get overhyped and then you get disappointed.
Well, and it's hard too because it's like when I do love a really popular book, it's like, how do I recommend it without contributing to that problem? Like when I really loved John Green's nonfiction book last year, even though I have not loved the fiction books I've read from him, and I wasn't even going to try it until I saw somebody I really trust who loved it. And I'm so glad I did because like I think that's one of my favorite nonfiction books that I've read recently. But I'm like, this is not just a hyped book. This is like people who don't read know about this book, you know? Like it's like literally everywhere. Everybody is like, you know, talking about how amazing it is. And so it's like, how do I say like, I also thought this was amazing without like piling onto that? Like, I don't know. I struggle with that.
Yeah. I think I just often just don't read those books.
That's your solution. It's like, I just don't. Like, never.
And like, I like mean to sometimes. And then I'm like, oh, well, now it's like,
yeah.
Should I even bother? I don't know. I feel like so often I'm at the other opinion about them that I don't want to like go in expecting to hate it, and that's kind of how I feel like I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually made a list recently of like hyped books that I actually like that lived up to it for me, and it was a lot longer than I thought. So I was like, okay, maybe the ones that stick out in my memory are the ones where I'm like, this is so overrated. I wasted my time. And then the ones where I'm like, this was as good as I thought it would be. Just kind of like in comparison, that's like not a very dramatic feeling, you know? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in maybe a similar boat to you, Kelly, though. Like, I feel like with so many, especially among like fantasy books, a lot of really hyped fantasy books, I just tend to be of an opposing opinion.
Yeah.
And so I just don't read them a lot of times because like, it's not fun to hate stuff that other people love,
I know.
And
Yeah.
like some people enjoy doing like hate reading things, and I don't think there's anything wrong. Like if you're getting enjoyment out of it and you enjoy hate reading something, like do it.
You do
I
you, yeah.
don't really enjoy it very
Yeah,
much,
me too.
so like it's not fun to me to like
Yeah.
read books that other people are loving and I'm like being a downer about it. So a lot of times, like partially it's for me because I'm like, well, I probably, from my experience, I probably won't like this, but also because I'm just like, I don't want to have to talk about this and explain to people why I don't like it.
Yeah. I
And
think
then
a
I
big
get-
part of that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, and then I get like more salty about it. So then I want
Yeah.
to talk. I don't really want to read it and hate it, but then like if I do hate it, then I'm like, I'm going to talk about this because I just don't get it.
Yeah. I am personally offended by how beloved this book is. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes too.
Yeah. Like, there are actually. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, like, there are actually books that I have read that I feel like are so overhyped that, like, if I think about them, I get mad because it's like if I think about how many awards this book has won or how much money this author has made when I think this book sucks and these people who I think are really talented aren't getting the same opportunities, I'm like,
Yep.
not a healthy way to be.
It's not. That's why I'm like, that's why I just like half the time just don't read those books because I'm like, I'm just gonna get angry if I don't like it, but at the same time, it's like I want to love it. So then I just have to be like, well, did somebody that I really like trust also like it? So then I have to like narrow it down to that specific person or something.
Yeah. I also feel like sometimes, as much as I don't love like hating on things that other people enjoy, if it is a really hyped book and I have an opposing opinion about it, I do sometimes want to like review, like if I have read it. I don't read it for this purpose, but if I have read it, then I want to like make a review about it. Because of like, I think Kara, you were saying when you're like, you get mad about it when you're like, I never hear anyone say anything bad about this. And sometimes I'm like, look, somebody has to say that this has some flaws, okay?
Yeah. Well, it's like that's how I felt with Lore Olympus when I read that first volume. Like, I did not have a good time. I can understand why other people would enjoy it more, but that was a situation where like I was like scrolling through Goodreads. I'm like, there has to be some people who didn't have a good time with this, and there were not that many. And so when I had, I think actually it was Shelby, from Read and Find Out, who like she commented, she's like, I hated this. Like I was like, really? Oh, good. Like, because yeah, it can feel, and I'm sure that part of the reason is because, like nobody. It's like nobody wants to be like the first person to be like, I did not like this popular thing. But like if you already know there's a few of you, it can be easier.
Yeah. I always love it when I get things where somebody comments going like, thank God somebody else didn't like this and they said it. I'm like, yes.
It's such a relief. Caramel said similar to all of you guys. That's why I don't know who Grisha is. Yeah. I don't know. I am probably gonna hop off and grab something to eat for dinner.
Yeah, I probably have to head out.
Yeah.
Right, start winding down.
Head out as if I'm going somewhere. But like
head out to my bed. Like
yeah, I'm gonna cross the room.
Thank you all so much for joining us for our second Cozy Crafting Sprint. Kelly and Huck, thank you so much for hosting these with me. Do we want to do a final like project check-in? Yeah. I think mine is going really well. I do need to find my measuring tape at some point, but made a good amount of progress. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I am here.
I love it.
You made a cone.
So what?
You made a cone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
You made like a Snuggie for a traffic cone. Sorry.
Yeah. I pretty much have made like the top of the hat, and now I'm just doing like this is all the increases, and now I'm just doing like going straight down for like the body of it. But pretty good progress because I started this with nothing. I had not even like wound my my skein of yarn into a usable ball. So like this is good progress.
Yeah, very productive. This was fun for the Halloween weekend homebodies, aka me. Me too. Me too.
Well, I mean, since I didn't actually like do the craft, but I prepared the craft. So I did all my
I mean, that's a lot.
On there. I got all but like a few. I ran out of little paper things, but at least now it won't be like a tangled ball in the bag. So next time I can actually do something.
Yes. And we're definitely going to be doing more of these. Thank you guys for watching. I know some people watch these back. So if you are watching these back, thank you. Feel free to let us know your last check-in in the comments. As I said, Huck and Kelly are already linked below. Anything else? I don't we'll announce on our like social media or channel when we do another one of these, but I'm loving it. So
it's fun.
Especially I mean, assuming you're also in the northern hemisphere like the three of us are, but it's like especially good crafting weather, as we get into fall and winter. So all right, we are gonna sign off. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your weekend. If you are not a Halloween homebody and you're actually doing stuff, I hope you have a good and safe holiday. And yes, bye everyone.
Bye.
End broadcast. Always